Captain Packwood and Fire Battalion Chief Becker to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If they're back there. Come on up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Perfect. You may be seated. You two can stay right there. Absolutely. You guys are a strike team. You should be able to handle anything that comes your way. All right. Tonight, I wanted just to take a quick second to honor two of our finest here in our fire department. Our fire department has been under a lot of stress and been doing a lot of good work here lately in the last couple weeks. But Turlock Fire Captain Kane Packwood and Turlock Fire Battalion Chief Bill Becker have been on a strike team and have been up in the hills, not only protecting us here at home indirectly, but have been protecting communities outside of Turlock. And I just wanted to take a second to pause. Some of you guys saw some of the pictures that they had here, but we need to reflect and we need to understand the sacrifice that they and their families make, not, again, just to Turlock, but to our communities here in California. So let's give them a round of applause right now. With that, it was just a moment of reflection, but I'll turn the mic over to either of you. Again, on the spot.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we definitely appreciate this recognition. This above and beyond calling is something we've chosen to do, but we're also fully sponsored and supported by Turlock Fire. Chief Lohman was our sponsor. Is he here? There he is. So thanks, Chief Lohman, for sponsoring Kane and I. And I think I could speak for Kane. It's a privilege to serve in this leadership role in our state's large and very robust mutual aid system. So and represent Turlock at the same time. So thank you very much for the recognition.
With that, it's important to realize that the mutual aid system of the state of California would not be as robust as it is if it wasn't for local government's involvement. And that's all of you guys here looking forward and saying, yeah, we're okay with you going out for a month, 2 weeks, however long it is. Some of us who will continue to go out through the rest of the fire season. That's our administration back there who have said, yes, we're going to do that. But it's also my brother firefighters who are stepping up and working my shifts when I'm gone. You know, I was gone for basically the month, so they've worked about 240 of my hours that I should have been at work here, that they're working for me and covering my duties back home here. But the biggest support that I get is from my wife, back in the very back, Karen. Can you stand up? Yeah. You all know her well. She keeps the home life. She keeps my kids in soccer. She keeps them going to all the activities, keeps the home solid so that the kids, you know, they miss me, but Mom's there and a great support system. So we all work together as a team to be able to provide this, so we go up and do these activities. So I'm very humbled by the recognition, and thank you very much.
No, we can't thank you enough, and leave it to Mr. Packwood to talk about local government and how we need to support this mission. So I like it. So thank you so much. This next one, we're going to move on to item 2B, is a really neat thing that you get to do as mayor, which is to present a key to the city. And it's been about 9 months or so since I've been mayor, and I have not presented a key to the city until tonight. And so I'll ask the Grace Bishop to please come forward. Give him a round of applause as he comes forward, please. We just met just the other weekend at the Assyrian Festival. You invited me there, and I'm very appreciative of that. To not only come and celebrate and eat great food, that was a good part of it, but to look at the history of the Assyrian culture and civilization and look at where we began. And we got to talk earlier about how Turlock's fabric is so unique and diverse. We have multiple cultures and races, ethnicities, and religions here in Turlock, and that's what makes Turlock great. I love that. So It's great to have the Assyrian community here as a part of Turlock, and it's such an honor. It's an absolute honor to have you here in Turlock. So before I give this key to you, Councilmember Jacob asked if he would like to say a few words, so I'm going to turn that over to him.
I wanted to actually say a few words in Assyrian. Kelly, I'm looking at you and hoping you're going to take word for word down what I'm going to say next. But I'll give a summary in English as well for the minutes. أودي من بيتان مالدا جماعة برابع خديوتا تيلي أخنا أسرائيل قربت إماشن نبيخ قدام ديتا بليخ قدام ديتا contribute بيدك قدام community وكما يوم خلي لقات عادية أخنا أخا council بمير council members سينا وأنا أخا أسرائيل قد شقيلو لا كيرسيجو council نيسا ترلوك أبن لخا برسة شقلن قدا يفعلت ديل النيتا قد خاطر رايخينا ولاختي خاطر رايخينا إنها خناشة قد كل خيتو دبيخو لقى بلغت الله وأنا من قم even كرسي شقيلالي من تاخد خاشية من قم عادي وناشا قامة قدانا تخمن لي جيرج منه هم زمن إيفا من مرأة قد شكلنا على برختو وسلوتو قدا شولا قد بشقالون so I'll summarize again and hopefully you take word for word, but it's just such an honor for me to as an Assyrian American, very proud of that, to be here and witness the recognition and giving a key to the city to my good friend Bishop Marawa. His prayer and support have meant a lot to me throughout the years, and he's somebody that I know to walk in deep integrity and really a Christ-like humility, where you can literally be the Son of God, but yet you're humble enough to go and wash your disciples' feet. That's the same spirit that I really know Bishop Marawa to walk in, and it's such a great occasion for us to be able to recognize that. I can't think of anybody more fitting and more deserving in the Syrian community to hold this honor. So with that, thank you very much, Mayor, for recognizing him in this way.
Again, we're all politicians that don't turn the microphone over quickly, so just bear with us. Because it's a key to this city, it's not a key just... Oh, is that okay? Okay, yeah, everyone buckle up. I like you. All right. Because this is a key to the city, it's not just from the mayor's office. I'm going to invite my fellow council members, if we could all stand in the center with the bishop, and we can take a quick photo and actually jointly present this to the bishop. That would be great.
Thank you. The Honorable Gary Soyseth, Mayor of the City of Turlock, esteemed members of the City Council, Reverend clergy, citizens of the City of Turlock, and my fellow Assyrians who are here this evening. It's a great joy to receive this honor, not personally, but on behalf of the Assyrian Church of the East, the Diocese of California, and on behalf of the Assyrian community, which has been a very important and integral part of this great city since the turn of the 20th century, when Assyrians first began to migrate to Turlock. It's one of the oldest parishes we have. St. Mar Adde, which is established in the early 40s, is right here in the city of Turlock. And the presence of the Assyrians, which count for more than 10% of the population here, is really something that is a joy for all of us that's being recognized by the good offices of the mayor and the city council, because we always feel that as Assyrians we need to do more for our city. And I thank each and every one of you on behalf of our community, which although is dispersed in the four corners of the world today, and our people are a martyred people, and our church is a martyred church today. If you've been following what's been happening in the Middle East, particularly in Iraq and Syria, which is the ancient homeland of the Assyrian people, the land between the two rivers, the cradle of civilization, the great contributions which the Assyrians have made to the world. And those of you who were at the festival about 2 weeks ago might have witnessed the exhibit that was presented by the festival committee in order to know who the Assyrians are more. So I thank each and every one of you for this honor, which I accept on behalf of my people. And we continue to pray for the mayor, for the city council, for each and every one of you. Thank you, Amy and Matthew. And we pray that God continues to make Turlock a great city. And you can count on us to help you do that. God bless you one and all. Thank you.
Oh, man. Well, I think that was a home run for the first key I gave out. Thank you so much. Testament to you. So now I'll call up the Turlock Fire Department to talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October 2015. So who here is going to represent? There we go. Come on up. Good seeing you. Are you on tonight? No shirts. All right, just checking. We have to wait till October to see the shirt. All right. I like it. All right, perfect. So I'm going to do a proclamation on behalf of Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October 2015. Whereas it is estimated that over 230,000 women and 2,300 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. And whereas about 40,000 of those diagnosed die each year. And whereas October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas members of the Turlock Fire Department will support breast cancer awareness by wearing specially designed pink T-shirts as part of their uniform in October, and whereas, in addition, other city staff members, including council, are authorized and encouraged to wear the pink Turlock Fire T-shirt every Friday throughout the month of October, and whereas this is an annual campaign designed to increase education to our city employees and our citizens about early detection, the cause, diagnosis, treatment, and support for survivors, and whereas any member of the public may join in this important cause by purchasing and wearing one of these T-shirts for $15 at turlockfirefighters.org, and whereas 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Bill and Elsie Allen Cancer Endowment in Turlock. Now, therefore, I, Gary Soyseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Turlock and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby proclaim October 2015 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Turlock and urge all citizens to join with City of Turlock firefighters in their annual campaign to raise awareness and support for this worthy cause. Congratulations.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me have an opportunity to come here and speak on behalf of the Turlock firefighters who are actually will be wearing pink in the month of October. But you know, this year was a little bit different. Terry, why don't you come up here? Terry actually works for the Cancer Center also. She's been a very strong support of anything that we do. If we need anything, there she is. She's a right-hand man person or a person I can rely on as far as anything that we need. She assists us all the way through. But you know, the nice thing about this is that when we do wear pink for the whole month, you can't believe the support that we get from the community. Very strong support. Anywhere we go, I think the firefighters like wearing pink because the women are always constantly telling them we like men in pink. But you know, in all seriousness, though, it is a very important thing, and it affects so many different families throughout our communities and family loved ones that we've had. You know, this year we actually did a contest. We actually had, we got the Turlock High Schools involved, and what we did with them, we asked them to do a pink T-shirt design. One of our firefighters, I don't know if he's here, Matt Campos, he's designed the last 3 of them for us. So this year we decided, you know what, why don't we have a high school student, someone from this community, to do our next shirt. So what we did is there was You know, I have never met the student, and I don't even know if he even's here. He was supposed to be here. Gregory? Gregory, come on over here. How you doing? Good, good. So we asked the high school students to do different drawings. Believe me, it was very difficult to pick just one shirt or one design. But we really liked his design that he put together. We really thought that would be the right shirt for us, for our community. So what I did was I did a copy of it so we could kind of show you what it's going to come out. This is the shirt. Well, of course, it's not going to be this big, but this is what it's going to look like in the front, okay? And then on the back of our shirt, it's going to look like this. So this is his design that he designed for us this coming year. So I would like to thank Greg and all the students that actually took time to do a drawing to do that for us, okay? And also, as a gift, appreciation to Greg, we were, as a committee, we have a committee of 5. We were saying, well, what is it, student? Well, apparently he's out of high school now, so I don't know if he's going to college yet. Okay, so what is an 18, 19-year-old kid like as a gift? So we go, okay, well, why don't we give him movie tickets? So we gave him a $25 gift card to the movies, $25 for Red Robin, $25 for Starbucks, and then $25 for the yogurt mill that just opened up. So, yes. So he has $100 to spend throughout the community, and then if you see him, appraise him and thank you for what he did. And also, Yogurt Mill also gave him a cup of appreciation. So we're asking the community, I know you're here, and some of them are, maybe some are from out of town, that you support us this coming year. We will be selling them at the farmers market starting September 19th, and we'll be there every Saturday to all the way to October 24th. And they'll be available at the Emmanuel Medical Center gift shop, and they're also going to be available at Greg Crivelli's or Crivelli's gift or T-shirt. So you can find one there. They're $15. Everything we make, it all goes to the Cancer Center. We've raised in the last 3 years $50,000 for the endowment. That we're hoping this year we are in the $60,000, $70,000 range. So thank you very much for the community for supporting us. We really appreciate it. Okay, we can't do it without you.
All right, for Yogurt Mill, you might want to get in line now, and you can have yogurt in about 2 hours. Good success story. We're now going to come up to item D, and it's not on accident that I moved this item to item D, because we just saw the recognition of firefighters that go out on strike teams. We saw the recognition of firefighters for Cancer Awareness Month, and a lot of this wouldn't be possible without our former chief, Chief Lohman. So come on up, Chief Lohman. How are you? So it's amazing we were able to boil down his career to one proclamation sheet, so I was checking that earlier. So let me get the formalities out of the way. In honor of the retirement of Fire Chief Tim Lohman. Whereas Fire Chief Tim Lohman started working toward a career in the fire services as a volunteer firefighter with Turlock Fire Department on July 1st, 1980. I won't tell you how old I was then, yeah. Whereas, I wasn't born. Whereas Chief Lohman started his career as a full-time firefighter for the city of Turlock on December 1st, 1983. We're getting closer, all right? Whereas Chief Lohman was active in suppression, training, investigations, and administration, and whereas Chief Lohman faithfully and conscientiously served the city of Turlock and its citizens for 35 years. And whereas Chief Lohman honorably retired from his position as Fire Chief effective August 15, 2015, and whereas Chief Lohman consistently performed to the best of his ability during his tenure with the city of Turlock, and whereas the City Council, by this recognition, wishes to express its great appreciation to Fire Chief Lohman for meritorious service, loyalty, and dedication to the city of Turlock. Now, therefore, I, Gary Soyseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of the entire city council, do hereby commend Fire Chief Tim Lohman for his many years of valuable service and express our sincere thanks on behalf of the city of Turlock. Congratulations. I know.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I think, Mayor, by skipping a meeting in August, you've lined up the agenda pretty heavily tonight, and so I won't take much of your time. But I am just so deeply appreciative to have served this city of Turlock since 1980, starting as a volunteer, as the mayor mentioned, and just to have the relationships that I've developed with our firefighters, the community, our council members, and our staff. It's just been so great. My wife's here tonight, and she's been by my side the whole time, and I publicly want to acknowledge her and thank her for that. It's just been great. But beyond that, when you sit back in the back of the council chambers tonight, and we hear our firefighters who've actually, I didn't get to see Bill or Kane before I left because they were on strike team assignments, and they go for anywhere from 7 to, I think last year you were gone 28 days. Is that correct, Kane? So they give up a great part of their time, but they love what they do. And it made my job so much easier to work with people that love their job and love their careers and loved what they did. So with that, I just want to thank all of you for the opportunity, Roy, especially you for the opportunity. And I just wish nothing but the best for the city of Turlock in the future. So thank you.
I like your new uniform, by the way, Chief. It's nice. All right. I get to do another really neat proclamation. The CSU, or Stan State Warriors Golf Team, 2015 California Collegiate Athletic Association Tournament Champions. Come on up here. Come on up. There we go. I got confused at first. I thought they were the firefighters with the pink shirts in the back, but I think, is that salmon? Is that salmon, not pink? All right, good. I like it. Okay, let's get the formalities out of the way. In honor of the CSU Stanislaus Warriors Golf 2015 California Collegiate Athletic Association Tournament Champions. Whereas the California State University Stanislaus Warriors Golf Team has won the Men's Golf 2015 California Collegiate Athletic Association Tournament Championships. Whereas special commendation is due all team members and to Coach John Cook. Whereas this has been an exciting, hard-fought, and successful golf season for the Warriors. Whereas the excellent performance, dedication, and commitment of these young men, along with their coach, have proven to be a source of admiration and inspiration to the citizens of Turlock. Whereas the team's accomplishments are consistent with Coach Cook's dedication to academic excellence, personal growth, and team unity. Whereas our city is very proud of the record the Warriors have earned and the fine publicity they have brought to our community by their good sportsmanship and inspired team play. Now, therefore, I, Gary Soyseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby honor the California State University Stanislaus men's golf team and Coach Cook for their outstanding achievement and commend them for their fine display of sportsmanship and teamwork. Congratulations.
First off, thank you guys. These guys did a really good job. This is our back-to-back championship for these guys, so give them another applause. I have since taken a different position, and I want to introduce the new coach here, but I just want to thank everyone on the council and the mayor. It's been great here coaching at Stanislaus. It's a great university and a great city, so thank you guys for your support. The new coach is Brandon Christensen. I'll have him come up real quick.
Thanks, John. And I just want to introduce myself. Brandon Christensen, new coach, and these guys have been great so far. Turlock is an amazing city, and everyone's been very welcoming. I want to thank you for the recognition, and thanks for having us up here.
Perfect. Any of you guys want to say anything? Go down the line? No? Nothing? All right. Well, because we do like to take a lot of pictures around here, I'm going to ask you all to come in the middle. And council members, you know the routine. Come on up. We're taking a picture. Come on, guys.
Question number 3, national champion.
So they just muttered to me, let's make it 3 next year. So hopefully we'll do that. We're all rooting for you. We have the Made in the CSU wrist bracelets, I guess you'd call them. So very proud of them. We have one last proclamation to the International Rescue Committee. Come on up. Hey, how are you? Good seeing you guys. Absolutely. Perfect. All right. So this is the last proclamation, I promise, and then we'll have a quick 1-minute break for any of you to leave before scheduled matters and all that fun stuff happens tonight. So, in recognition of the International Rescue Committee, whereas at the request of Albert Einstein, the International Rescue Committee was founded in 1933 to respond to the world's most humanitarian crises. And whereas the International Rescue Committee helps people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control of their future. And whereas across the globe, IRC teams provide healthcare, infrastructure, learning, and economic support to people in 40 countries with special programs designed for women and children. And whereas on the path of self-sufficiency, integration, and citizenship, the IRC supports clients with housing, cultural orientation, job placement, English language lessons, and immigration and citizenship. And whereas IRC restores safety, dignity, and hope to millions who are uplifted and struggling to endure as refugees and displaced persons. Whereas in 2003, IRC opened its Turlock Resettlement Office to aid refugees fleeing from violence and persecution, helping them to rebuild their lives in the United States. Now, therefore, I, Gary Soyseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby recognize the IRC and commend their contributions and efforts expended to aid and assist millions of people across the world whose lives have been affected by conflict or disaster to regain control of their future.
I would like to thank you for this recognition, and we are serving Turlock since the Stanislaus County since 2000, and I started working with IRC in 2002, and there are my staff that's sitting in the among the audience. I would like to ask them to stand up. And also, I would like to have my director to have, sorry, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
Hello, it's so nice to be here with you all. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Thank you, Bishop, and community of Turlock. My name is Karen Ferguson. I'm the new Executive Director for International Rescue Committee in Northern California. We have 4 offices: Sacramento, Oakland, San Jose, and of course, since I'm here right now, the most important is Turlock. We also serve in Modesto. As you well know, and I'm just learning, Vivian and her staff with Rhoda and Jacqueline. Kevin is brand new today. We have Marina and Fidel who aren't here. They do an amazing job of working in partnership with everybody here to welcome and bring in people who have had to flee war and persecution, whose lives have been shattered and whose lives you help rebuild. So, Mayor, I was really touched by your statement of welcoming diversity and the richness that brings to the community in terms of the Assyrian community that is here. And I hope that IRC can continue to be a partner with the Turlock and greater area community in terms of continuing to build on that. So thank you very much for this honor.
All right, with that, I am going to issue a 1-minute break for all of those that, after these proclamations, would like to depart, and we'd like to say thank you. So we have 1-minute break, Council. course, yeah. Absolutely, yes. No, I need to make the announcement. Yeah.
You gotta start kicking us out slowly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna do that right now.
Go for it.
Okay, if we could be seated. We have two missing council members. If any of you have seen them, we would like them to report back immediately. Oh, wait. Okay, got it. While we're waiting, before I come back, the restrooms currently are being renovated for ADA compliance, to be brought up to ADA compliance. So if you need to use the restroom, you can contact anybody at this table right here, and they can escort you to a restroom to use it. It will be a long meeting, so you might need to do it. Hey, Councilman, how are you? All right, we're going to move on to item 3A. It's an ad hoc subcommittee meeting for tree maintenance and sidewalk repair programs. presented by Councilmember Dehart, just in time. Oh, I officially brought this back into session a minute ago, Kelly. Got it.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but the remodel of the men's and women's facilities is well underway. And I never had a guided tour of City Hall downtown before.
That's just for you. We only escort you. You know that, right? Yeah.
It's probably wise, sir. Very humbly and profoundly, and obviously very publicly, I have to extend an apology to someone. As I prepared for the meeting on the 2nd and transferred all of my names and email addresses and so on and so forth into my email, there was one very important person that didn't get invited, but I didn't know until she wasn't. Vice Mayor Bublak, I extend my most sincere apology for an incredible oversight. That means lacking in credibility oversight, for those of you who parse the English language. Let me just give you a quick down and dirty, because I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but I think that there are some things that we all either discovered as a group that were identified for us, but that we all, whether we're council, staff, extended community, we all need very much to be aware. So this committee meeting was on the 2nd of September, Wednesday night. Whoops. One of the most important reasons I think that we have to consider is the fact that it's out of repair sidewalks is a critically important legal issue. When we have sidewalks that are not even, there's a couple of things that happen. Obviously, we've created a trip hazard, but number two, we have also made it next to impossible for those with mobility issues to pass on a sidewalk. So there are some significant legal issues that we must maintain control of. I'm not going to read all the slides for you. There's only about 75, Mayor, so I'll make this as rapid as I can. So, number one, critically important, it is a legal issue that we get them back into repair. There's two pieces to it. Number one, of course, is the sidewalk. Number two is a street maintenance issue. Very rarely do the two occur independent of each other. Typically, we have a problem with, when we have a problem with a tree, we have a corresponding problem with a sidewalk. Either it's being raised. Let's don't talk about exceptions. I'll mention one, though, just to fill time. We did have to repair a sidewalk in northeast Turlock where the sidewalk literally sank due to overwatering. There was no tree within at least 50 feet of that sink. So in reality, while they seem to be running hand in hand, every once in a while we do have a situation where they don't. Street trees, sidewalks, critical issue. There are several different methods of repairing sidewalks that have been raised. One new method, or new to me in terms of definition, thank you very much, Allison, for your help on that, is a saw cut method, and that is a multiple saw reduction, if you will, of raised sidewalk panels that are next or adjoining each other. In 2012-13, you can see the numbers, 415 different instances where those seams were repaired. 2013-14, 14-15, we actually had a very small number of actual remove and replace sidewalk panels relative to the saw cut. Now, it's critical that we understand this at this point. These are actions taken by the city on city-controlled properties. Okay, these are not residential in nature. These are city repairs to city-controlled properties. That's a fairly significant number. I did not have this slide available, although it was. We didn't get it in the package in time for our meeting on the 2nd. This will be included in our minutes. Those minutes are forthcoming, by the way. As far as residential permits that have been processed, we see the increase from 2012 on through 2015 year to date. where we are in the year, we will no doubt surpass the permits processed for 2014. Sidewalks. Street tree permits processed. Whenever a sidewalk is repaired, a tree is removed, replaced, requires a permit. We do have existing ordinances for these things. Some of these ordinances have, for lack of a better descriptive, fallen into not being observed as forcefully as perhaps we should. Primarily because I think, in all fairness to everybody concerned, when it's out of sight, it tends to be out of mind. And we are going to be bringing it closer to everyone's consciousness as this committee proceeds. Mr. Mayor, I don't want to get any further into the weeds this evening, but this is a summary of where we've gone so far, what we were presented with up front, and of course, the actions explained to you this evening in response to your call for a review, potentially considering a point of sale option for these repairs. There are a lot of issues surrounding that particular issue, which we will continue to ferret out and discuss. My intent is to have back to probably first council in October, if we're not too packed, summary of that effort with perhaps some recommendations. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? All right, with that, I'll open it up. Are there any questions or comments from the public on this item? No? Okay, I'll close public participation and bring it back. Thank you so much, Councilmember DeHart and Councilmember Bublock, for sitting on that committee and going through this issue. And we'll hear back from you in October. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 3A2, Internet Presence Committee. Councilmember Jacob.
So I am the sole member of that committee. It's been quite an interesting process that we've been going through so far. I just want to fill in my fellow council members and the public on that. We have been meeting probably once every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, with representation from at least one person from every department in the city, trying to take a holistic look at our existing website and trying to figure out how to upgrade it in terms of not only in the way that it looks, not just a front-end kind of a facelift sort of an approach, but actually in the way that the information is organized. Does it make sense to users, and is it easily accessible? So if somebody needs to interact with the city in any way, we want to make sure that it's as user-friendly. It makes as much sense as possible for you to just go straight to our website and within a few clicks be exactly where you need to be, whether you need to file a police report or you want to find out information about the sidewalk program, or you want to get information about your water usage, or anything to that effect. However it is that you're interacting with the city, we want to make sure that it's as much as into the 21st century as possible. We have a lot of information that's available in terms of how we interact with our customers, specifically right now in the drought and everything that as it relates to your water usage. We want to try to make that as easy as possible. I know that in our utility bills right now, and you're able to go in and log into your utility bill and see your usage and compare it to your neighbors and whatnot, but we just want to make sure that there's a push to making that information as accessible as possible, whether that entails creating a mobile application to be paired with the website. Those are all options that we're looking into at this time. Until now, we have really, it's just been a content sort of overview of the content that's on there, and as we move forward, we're going to be working on the presentability side of it as well. And the way that I sort of foresee, and I want to kind of throw this out there to the council, is that it probably will take a budget amendment within our December budget review. So just something to kind of start considering that it might take a little bit of money to put some of the ideas that we have together. Other pieces that I'm very interested in advancing are how can we increase community engagement, specifically with council meetings, in terms of possibly making some sort of interactive way for community members to interact with during the council meetings if they're not able to be here. So sort of a live mobile presence, live streaming and whatnot. And I haven't really run this by City Attorney Norton, but maybe some way for them to actually be able to like go log in and ask us questions. I'm not sure how that would exactly
Twitter?
work out. Maybe like a Twitter feed, Periscope. You never know. There's a lot of cool features out there. But I'm very impressed by the work that because this process actually begun before I have gotten involved. I'm very impressed by the work that has taken place beforehand. There's some very creative ways that staff has been working to try to make the website as user-friendly as possible. One thing in particular that I was very impressed with was they created these user cards where somebody from the fire department, for example, would say would create a task that they wanted to get to for their section. Then everybody sort of switched around those user cards, gave it to somebody in a different department, and they timed how long it took them to actually get to that task without knowing anything about the fire department and exactly where to go. And so trying to reduce those times as little as possible, trying to figure out what are the most clicked on things to create a quick link section of the website and whatnot. So I'm very impressed by the work that's been taking place so far. I'm glad to be on board to sort of steer that in the direction that I think we sort of want to go as a city, that increasing our marketing and branding, I guess, if you will, for the city. So,
any questions or comments for Councilmember Jacob? Do we have a target date of when we're going to hit certain milestones, of when we'll have like a rough draft of the website for us all to review, or when we're going to have a final product? Maybe that's for staff to weigh in on.
I know that we have a goal of January 2016.
Okay.
So I feel confident that we'll probably be able to meet that goal. Again, it's sort of you're trying to get so many pieces together in terms of, we have, as a city, we do so much and so many different things that you're trying to get everybody on board and contributing in each of their respective departments. And so as long as we all sort of move forward at a fast pace, I think we should be able to meet that goal.
Great. Any questions or comments from the public? All right. Closing that. Any last comments? All right. Thank you so much, Councilman Jacob and Councilmember DeHart. Moving on to staff updates, capital projects and building activity. Director Pitcock.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Tonight I was going to give you a quick update on the capital projects. The council chambers improvements, obviously the bathrooms are still in construction. They are working on getting the tiles. We had a floor issue that we had to deal with in the women's restroom, so they had to tear it up a little bit, find out what the issue was. The architect has got a fix for it, and we're just waiting for the tiles to come in. They can come in, do the fix, put the tiles down, and finish that up. As far as the repair of the redevelopment of the facility here, they are working with the contractor's working with our design professional on the last few, what they call shop drawings, and as soon as those are ready to go, they'll begin construction here. So they're finishing that up. It should hopefully in the next week or two we'll have some activity in this room as well. We also have a slurry seal project. Our annual slurry seal project will begin on the September 21st. It's our current schedule. During those periods of times, there will be notifications given to the public regarding road closures. The road will be closed for most of the day. The application goes down. It goes down as a liquid. It does set up over time. It usually takes 4 to 5 hours to set up depending on the temperatures. They will be given several days' notice so that they can make the necessary arrangements to get their vehicles out of the area in the early morning so they can get to work and get to school and so forth. The East Main water line, that work is ongoing. The work has been completed as far as the installation in Olive Canal and East Main. One of the great news that we received was they took 12 water samples. They have to pass because we don't chlorinate our water, so it has to be perfectly pristine, and all 12 of those passed on the first try, which is unheard of. So kudos to the contractor, and I have to give a little kudos to Manuel Quintero, my inspector, who insisted upon them using Webster's, knocking the dust and dirt out of the pipes before they put them in the ground. So it was a combination of him helping them be successful. Did want to talk a little bit about the paving. There's been some interest about what the paving is going to look like when it comes back. The trench in Olive and Canal will be a 10-foot wide paved back, so it'll be a nice wide trench. What we do is called a T-grind, so you don't get water that can penetrate to the subgrade. It has to. There's a little, I guess, a little area that's a barrier that prevents the water from getting under the roadbed. But one of the good things about this project is we're going to be doing a overlay of a portion of East Main from Minaret to Canal, and that's that one portion that's really, really in bad condition. We are using our gas tax funds to repair that, and we'll be doing a little half street pave of East Main between Palm and Minaret. So more to come on that. So hopefully we'll have a nice, rideable, very good and smooth roadway when we're completed. And lastly, on the public safety door, adjacent to the public meeting room, we did get the doors in, the hardware's in, and the contractor's been scheduled to come in and do the installation on Friday morning, 8 a.m.
Great.
Be happy to answer any questions on capital projects.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember DeHart.
Yeah, Mike, it's come up once before, but most recently at the National Night Out, I had a couple of residents ask about the slurry seal and had commented that after the process in their particular area, on their particular street, they were picking up sand or gravel by the buckets and couldn't get enough buckets off the roadway. And, of course, it's not that it would need to be removed as much as it is potentially damage to their vehicles as they drive by, or what can be done about that?
What they do is we have actually in the bid documents that once it's completed and set up, they actually run it with their tire roller to knock those edges off, and then they sweep it up. They also are required to come back, I think it's 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, and sweep it again. But the slurry seal application, what it does do is during that curing process, it does build what we call a little bit of a crust, and it does break off, little bits of it will break off as it sets up, or as it cures. So it is not necessarily a bad thing as far as the road itself is behaving like it's supposed to, but it does become, tires track it in the driveways. Sometimes people have complained that they've actually tracked it under shoes into their homes. But there's not a lot we can do other than ask that they do additional sweeping. Now, the one area that we do continue to see long-term where the crust doesn't break down very fast is on cul-de-sacs, because there's not a lot of vehicles traveling on cul-de-sacs. So if it's on a cul-de-sac, it may last a little bit longer, but over time with weathering, with tire wear, it knocks off pretty fast and becomes a nice, smooth surface.
Can we include as part of our work order to ensure that they throw in an extra sweep or two?
We can try that and see we can get them out there as often as we can. I'll talk to Scavenger as well and see if when they go through those areas, if they can maybe hit the whole road, not necessarily the gutter.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Mike?
Okay. On building activity for the month of August, we had 82 over-the-counter permits, 15 minor permits, and 20 traditional permits for a total of 117, of which 83 were completed in 5 days or less, or issued in 5 days or less, with 439 inspections given. So we're continue to see strong use of our building department as far as preparing and issuing permits.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Director Cook for Water Conservation Update.
Good evening, Mayor Soyseth, members of the council. As you know, in response to the governor's emergency declaration, the State Water Resources Control Board set City of Turlock a target to reduce its water use by 32% on a month-by-month basis compared to the year 2013. In May, we got off to a great start. It was a 36% reduction. June was 19%. July back up to 35%. August down a little bit to 26%. We just got that information, so we'll disaggregate that data to figure out which customer classes we need to work with and hopefully help them improve their water conservation efforts. We'll keep watching September's use. As you know, this week's going to be a record high temperatures, which typically means more landscape watering. Unfortunately, we could do with some cooler weather. Our normal winter watering schedule is set to begin November 1st, which mandates no more than 1 day a week watering, Saturdays or Sundays, for even and odd days. If things do look like water use is going up, we would potentially recommend the council move that date up to October 1st to go to 1 day a week. but we'll keep you apprised of where our daily usage is as we go forward from today. Although we encourage as much as we can through public education outreach, we do enforcement too for those who have a hard time complying with the schedule. In July, we issued 705 notices. In August, we issued 678 notices. So we've issued 1,672 notices in July and August. The good news is only 56 fines were issued. So that means 97% of our customers are changing their behavior once they get that warning notice. But 56 people are due for fines. On the other good side, we have set up an online water conservation school, kind of like traffic school, where you can sit through a 2-hour class, and that will waive your $50 penalty fee. And we've had 10 people so far take that class, and a number more have signed up and haven't taken it yet. So obviously, again, we're not after the money, we're after the water. So if we can get people to change their behavior, that's the most important thing. Any questions for me?
Any questions or comments for Director Cook? Seeing none, thank you so much. All right, we'll now move on to public participation. This is a time set aside for members of the public to directly address the City Council on any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council, and to address the Council on any item on tonight's agenda, including consent calendar items. You'll be allowed 5 minutes for your comments. If you wish to speak regarding an item on the agenda, you may be asked to defer your remarks until the Council addresses the matter. No action or discussion may be undertaken on an item not appearing on the posted agenda, except that Council may refer the matter to staff or request it to be placed on a future agenda. Nanette, if it's okay, I'm going to have you hold your comments until item 7B, which is going to be addressing. Perfect. I'll ask Ms. Bartlett to come up for library events.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, members of the City Council, and good evening to all of you in the audience. My name's Diane Bartlett. I'm the branch manager at the Turlock Public Library. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit tonight about what's coming up. You know, September means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and for us in the library, it means it's National Library Card Sign-Up Month. So if you don't have one of these, I challenge you to come on down to the library and apply. It's very simple. All we need to do is take a look at your ID and have you fill out an application, and we'll get you a library card. You can also go online, talk about internet access. You can go online, put your application in there, and we'll have your card ready for you when you come down. So what can you do with the library card? Well, most folks would say check out books, and yes, you can still check out physical books at the library, believe it or not. You can check out magazines, audiobooks, DVDs. You can access the internet and Office Suite programs on our public computers. You can access our e-services such as our e-books, e-magazines, movies, television, music, karaoke with this library card. Also, you can access databases, which gives you information such as homework help, auto repair, help for your business, health information. But do you have to have one of these to use the library? No. We welcome you anytime that we're open. We hope that you come down and participate in some of our programs. We do have weekly story times for a group for the under 3-year-olds. It's called Wiggle Worms and is offered on Wednesday mornings at 10 and 11. On Thursday mornings, we offer a story time for ages 3 to 6, again at 10 and repeated at 11. And every Tuesday at 4, our children's librarian has some special program. I had to leave today from the dinosaur program. That was tough because they had lots of fun over there. But coming up next Tuesday at 4, Pirate Day. So if you want to learn how to talk like a pirate, come out and visit us. On the 22nd is Lego Day at 4 o'clock. And on the 29th, we're going to celebrate 150 years of Alice in Wonderland. So come on down for a Mad Hatter Tea Party. Wear your favorite hat. We'll have games and a craft. And then new this month, Michelle, our children's librarian, is going to start a kids book club for kids in grades 4 and up at 4 o'clock starting Wednesday the 19th. She reads a lot, and we'll share what she's reading. We'd like to hear what you're reading as well. Of course, for adults, we'll be doing some what we call Tech Connect Mondays for the next 3 Mondays at 6:30. I'll be doing a program. Next Monday, I'll be doing a program on electronic resumes. And then on the 21st, we'll go over our Mango language learning program, so you can learn one of over 60 languages, or if you're a non-native English speaker, you can learn English. And then on the 28th, I'll be talking about our library databases. So I hope to see one and all at the library, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Every time you speak, it feels like we need to give an applause, so it's great. Thank you. Is Aaron Quarenta and family there? Come on up. And family, everybody. You each get 5 minutes, so yeah, I heard you wanted to talk. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so we're here because we wanted to say thank you to the city, to the engineering department, and to whoever listens to the people when we ask for something that we really need. There's a new stop sign at Quincy and Marshall, which is about 4 blocks from our house, and we have had to we either have to take East Avenue, which no one wants to take East Avenue on a bike or on their feet, or we have to cross Quincy at Marshall, which was always scary even in the car, but especially when we were on our bikes and on our feet, which we do a lot of biking, a lot of walking, and a lot of driving. And so you guys had a survey a couple of years ago where you asked about what you'd like changed as far as, I think it was a biking, walking survey, and I filled it out and requested a stop sign there. And then there was, I think it was an ATP meeting a few months ago where Wayne took down my request, and then a few weeks later we saw the little thing that tallies cars driving by, and lo and behold, about a month ago maybe, the stop sign was there. And so for our family this is a huge deal because it keeps us safe, and as my kids were getting old enough to be able to bike by themselves, they're not there yet, but we're training for that. That was the one holdup, was them having to cross that intersection where I've almost been hit many, many times in my car because it's so hard to see the way that the cars park there and how fast the cars fly down Marshall when I'm trying to cross Quincy. And so having that stop sign is just such a big deal for our family and such a big deal for our neighborhood. So we have a thank you card, which has some kids from our neighborhood standing at the stop sign, kids who now walk to school to Julene, because they can cross now with their mom with her 4 kids and their stroller without worrying about having to dart, you know. And it says, thank you so much for helping keep us safe by putting up the stop sign at East Marshall Street and North Quincy Road. We appreciate what you do. And a special thank you to Mike Pitcock, Wayne York, and the engineering department for listening to our concerns and working to make our city a safer place to walk, bike, and drive. From the Quarenta family and all the other families who travel through and live in our neighborhood. So, and then I think, so my son Noah would like to say something.
Okay. My name is Noah Quarenta, and thank you for putting the stop sign there. We really needed it.
Nice.
And we brought thank you cookies. So we have 4 dozen thank you cookies, and we didn't know if we should leave them on a table or pass them out, or how that would work.
They go to the engineering department.
They go to the engineering department, so do you want to present them to Mike?
Remember who signed your paycheck there, Miss Pitcock.
Take him over there. He gets the card, too.
Thanks, Mike. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. It's not a rarity that staff make us look good, so this is just a testament to how great we have it here in Turlock. For public participation, is there anyone else from the crowd that would like to address the council? Yes, please come on up.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Christopherson Cross, and you know what I did? I brought my notes for you people. I represent Miracle Foundation, which owns the net. The building is the corner of Monte Vista and Dells Lane. It's a family foundation. And it is used by the whole week by Chi Alpha, which is a Christian college organization. I did attend the first instructional or informative meeting that they conducted at the college, and also both at the planning meeting, which is on July 16th. By the way, what I'm going to discuss is on the project at the college for the students.
Mrs. Cross, did you want to continue now, or would you like to be first when it comes to the agenda item? It's up to you, actually.
Well,
do you want to wait till the item, or do you want to do it now?
It's going to be a long time later.
If you want to speak now, it's going to be maybe in 15, 20 minutes.
I can wait.
You can wait? Are you sure?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have you tee it off. Only if Nanette allows it, so we'll see. All right. Perfect. Are there any other item or anyone else?
Lisa Giletti said she turned in a card. I don't know where it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Miss Giletti, would you like to address the council? Come on up. Yeah, please. I'm sorry I didn't get your card earlier.
I turned it in. I don't know who dropped the ball on that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, there it is. We found it, but thank you. We wouldn't have passed you over. Don't worry.
Thank you, Mayor Soseth and City Attorney Norton. My name is Lisa Giletti, and I was born and raised here in Turlock. And I have spoken in front of the council before in regards to my concern with our homeless population and the excessive ticketing of illegal camping and illegal storage that has been going on. And the homeless population is near and dear to my heart, simply because I have been born and raised here, and I have been down and out at one point in my life. And so now that I, am doing better, it seems to me that the homeless population is being targeted, and what we're finding is that the city has a new program for these tickets that they're getting. And so apparently the city has like a kind of a probation program going on where if you get one ticket, we'll excuse it as long as you don't get another ticket. But my concern is these people are homeless. They are going to get another ticket. They are going to be in trouble again. And there is a bill going through Senate at this time where there is a right to rest. And it's not illegal camping. If you need to sleep and you need to rest your head, then you need to sleep. And you should not be targeted and ticketed for that. And so what's happening is everyone is getting in trouble for these things. And no one is going to be able to come out and come up because we're not getting a helping hand. And I say we because I am near and dear to the homeless population. I was a volunteer at Turlock Gospel Mission. I was an employee at Turlock Gospel Mission. The homeless population is still near and dear to my heart. I am housed. I have a job. I am a productive member of society. But I am so concerned because if we continue to degrade and dehumanize and take away these people's civil rights, they will never be able to get a hand up. And I spoke with an Officer Urban on the 30th, and he said, "Do you think this is right?" And we were looking at a homeless camp, quote unquote, supposed. And I said, you know what? It's not right. But there is nowhere that they can go to lay their head. And he says, what do you think we're supposed to do as police officers? And I said, you're supposed to do what's Christian-like. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the council? All right, seeing none, I will close public participation. Moving on to declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. I would like to note that there is a green sheet for item 5B. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to accept.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bubak, seconded by Councilmember Jacob, to accept the consent calendar as is. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. Our microphones are literally falling apart up here. Councilmember Nascimento has just given up on his little foam end. All right, moving on to final readings. We have no final readings for tonight. Moving on to public hearings. Item 7A, a request to approve a water transfer agreement between the City of Turlock and Del Porto Water District for up to 13,000 acre-feet of transfer water annually and adopt a negative declaration of environmental effect pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. Director Cook.
Good evening again, Mayor Soyseth, members of the council. As you remember from your last meeting, the city is working in a longer-term plan to build a pipeline to the Delta Mendota Canal with the City of Modesto, known as the North Valley Project. That will take 2 to 3 years to complete. In the meantime, the city's treated wastewater is discharged directly into the San Joaquin River. There's a provision in the California Water Code that allows a person or an entity that discharges into the San Joaquin River to remove an equal volume of river water downstream and put that to beneficial use. And so basically under Section 1485 of the Water Code, the city has made an application with the state of California, and to complete that application, we do need to file an environmental document under the California Environmental Quality Act, and that's the document that you have before you tonight. The purpose of this transfer is to get this water, or allow this water to be used beneficially in our region. The beneficiary will be Del Porto Water District. They have about 45,000 acres on the west side of our county, basically from Vernalis, or from Vernalis to Santa Nella, so north to south. They get all their water from the Delta Mendota Canal, and as you probably know, there are no diversions from that canal right now, so they are struggling for a stable water supply. So basically, we continue to discharge into the San Joaquin River like we've always done. They'll blend with river water, then 4 miles downstream, just north of the West Main Bridge, Patterson Irrigation District have a pumping facility. They'll pump that water out of the river, or an equal volume out of the river, convey it through their canal system over the Delta Mendota Canal, where Del Porto Water District can pull that water out. So it's a very simple project. It's a 5-year agreement. Del Porto will pay us $75 an acre foot. There's 3 acre feet basically in 1 million gallons of water. So we discharge about 10 million gallons of wastewater per day. So that equates to about $750,000 to $800,000 a year in potential revenue. Obviously, we have obligations to other users in our region, including the Turlock Irrigation District. So Del Porto will receive the net after we've made those other obligations in our community. So this allows us to get our water rights from the state of California, from the State Water Resources Board. There's a point of clarification from the city attorney. There's a resolution to adopt a negative declaration of environmental effect, and then a follow-up motion to approve the agreement between the City of Turlock and Del Porto. So the CEQA has to go first, and then the agreement. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Director Cook? And it is noted that we would accept that change to CEQA first, and then we will approve the transfer later. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the public? No? All right, seeing none, I will close public participation and bring it back to council. Councilmember Bubak.
I'd like to introduce a motion accepting the CEQA.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bubak, seconded by Councilmember DeHart, accepting the resolution as stated by Director Cook. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much, Director Cook.
Introduce the resolution.
Absolutely, I'm ahead of myself. So we have a motion by Councilmember Bubak, seconded by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll. Correct.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. I try and run a very efficient meeting, and this has been going on for an hour and 15 minutes, so I apologize. Now we move on to item B, request to amend the general plan and rezone 3 parcels totaling approximately 9.7 acres from community commercial to high-density residential to allow for the construction of a 180-unit, 600-bed student housing complex, referred to as the Vista Student Housing Project. The properties are located at 900 West Monte Vista Avenue, 3000 Kroll Road, and 1010 West Monte Vista Avenue. The purpose of the project is to build a student housing community where the individual bedrooms will be leased solely to the California State University Stanislaus. Students, and all the community amenities will be available for the exclusive use of the student residents and their guests. A planned development application is also included in this request that would allow for the construction of the 180 units. Debbie.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Mayor Soiseth, the members of the council. As the mayor has already summarized, we have a general plan amendment and a rezone application that is being requested for a 180-unit, 600-bed student housing facility located just south of the university. But before I go into the project itself, I thought it would be important to go through a little background on this property. This has been a property that we have tried to have development on for a long time, and there have been a lot of past attempts to put housing on this particular piece of land, on either all or a portion of it. We had a planned development back in 2005 that had 133 condominiums on roughly half of this property. We had another affordable housing project, 96 units, again on roughly half of the property that is in question here today. And then we had the Campus Crest project back in 2009 that would have provided 192 units for student housing on the entire property that we're discussing this evening. I did want to make note that that project was a 3-story development project with an overall height of 42 feet. As we'll see later on in the presentation, what we have before you as a recommendation from the Planning Commission is for a 4-story buildings that would be roughly 50 feet in height. The property is currently zoned, half of it is zoned for community commercial on the eastern 5 acres, and we have medium density residential that is, community commercial that is also located on the western half. We have the Family Entertainment Center that's been approved as a planned development on the western 5 acres that the community is very interested in, and when this particular planned development was approved, we actually established a very long-term development schedule of 10 years that would require that this particular use be implemented at this property because of the interest by the community in seeing a bowling alley at this location, and also to ensure that it wasn't converted to more typical commercial retail use. The proposed project, as we mentioned, is a 180-unit, 600-bed student housing complex on 9.7 acres. It includes a roughly 6,500 square foot clubhouse, a swimming pool, and an outdoor volleyball and basketball court. When the application was submitted to us, the applicant was requesting that the pool be operated 8 a.m. to midnight, the fitness center from 6 a.m. to midnight, and the outdoor courts from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. The Planning Commission is recommending an alteration of the outdoor courts to no later than 10 p.m. on weekday nights, and then allow it for 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. There are 2 alternative development schemes that I'm going to go through very quickly for you so that you understand both of the recommendations or the applications. Scheme 2 is a recommendation that is coming before you this evening from the Planning Commission. There is a slight variation that I'm going to go over to you very quickly that has been proposed by the applicant and is included in the resolution this evening for your approval. This is the property. I'm using the wrong button there. Okay, there we go. This is the property. Here's Monte Vista. You have the university to the north. This is the property that would be developed. You have the Rite Aid, and you have the Prime Shine Car Wash to the west, and then you have Yosemite Farm Credit on the east. You have the Rotary International Park, and then you have a number of residential neighborhoods that are located around the periphery of the project. The first option that I'm going to go through is the 3-story option. Again, this is not the recommendation coming from Planning Commission, but as you can see, the elevations that are proposed for the development are quite nice, and they do meet our design guidelines. The site plan that is before you in this particular option would have 4 3-story buildings, and the clubhouse would be located just to the south of the Prime Shine, with the pool area and the volleyball courts located in this area adjacent to the Yosemite Farm Credit. The distance between the residential subdivision to the south and this building here is roughly 80 to 90 feet. Our ordinance would have basically allowed this to occur within about 20 to 30 feet of the property line. You do have a more detailed table just showing the distribution of the units. Again, this is being proposed as 180 units, but basically what you have is that each of the bedrooms that are being provided in the units are independent units that can be locked. They have their own restroom facility. What essentially occurs is that they're sharing a common area for kitchen and for kind of a living room area. So what you'll see in the distribution of the unit types is there's 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Basically, each one of the bedrooms has its own independent and private space for the students to live in. The 4-story option, again, here's the elevation for this particular option. Again, very nicely done, and it meets our design guidelines. In this option, and one of the reasons why both staff and the Planning Commission eventually approved this alternative, is that the building, the living area that would have been located roughly here and about 80 to 90 feet from the residential subdivision to the south is being removed and replaced with the volleyball courts and with the clubhouse area. So you wouldn't have the windows of the bedrooms facing directly onto the backyards of the residences that are located in this area. You do have this second building that basically, if you look at an angle, it's about 90 to 100 feet from the nearest residence that is located in this area. So it is relatively close compared to or it's very comparable in the distance to the 3-story option. But again, these particular units will be more at an angle to the residential units, and the windows are really not facing directly onto the backyards of the residences that are located to the south. Again, you have a unit distribution. One of the things I'll just make note of is in the original presentation to the Planning Commission, we had 600 parking units that were being provided. You had 600 beds. You had 600 parking units. And again, this is one of the reasons why Planning Commission and staff preferred this particular option, is that you essentially have 1 parking space for every bedroom that's being offered within the facility. The revised site plan that is being presented for your approval this evening, the applicant has basically proposed that because there was some concern about the noise that would be created by the volleyball and basketball courts, they are proposing to move those closer to the clubhouse and pool, basically creating a recreational complex for the students. It would still place the pool area close to the Yosemite Farm Credit. One of the mitigation measures that was put in place by the Planning Commission was to have a masonry wall along this entire eastern property line to help with noise reduction, but probably more importantly to deal with the disturbance that might be created by the pool area and the recreational area. I'll also note that along the southern property line, in addition to moving the buildings away, the applicant has proposed as part of their application to install a privacy fence that would be adjacent to the existing wood fences that are that basically represent the rears of each one of the residences, and they will also put in an evergreen screen, albeit it'll take a little bit of time for that to develop. Eventually that would provide a nice visual screen to the property from the backyards of those residents. In terms of the project analysis, again, we turn to the general plan. This is a general plan amendment, so it really is at the discretion of the City Council as to whether or not to approve this request. But we do look to the general plan and its policies to provide an analysis of whether this type of change would be consistent with the general plan, and kind of looking at it overall. One of the primary objectives of the general plan is to provide increased diversity in housing. And we have a housing element that advocates for a larger amount of rental and lower income housing opportunities within the city. We continue to struggle here in the city of Turlock with housing affordability, and often our renters are paying a very high percentage of their household income in order to provide housing in the city. The project's very well designed. It provides an opportunity for infill development, again, This is a primary objective of the general plan, is to promote infill development, and it does place student housing within easy walking and biking distance of the university, which was one of the primary goals of the applicant, is to basically reduce the amount of vehicle trips that would occur from the project. In looking at the two various options that are presented in Scheme 1, which is the 3-story option, the overall height of the buildings is 40 feet. This does not exceed the height restriction in our high-density residential zoning district, so it's very compatible with the current zoning. The height limit on the adjacent residential neighborhoods is 35 feet. The high-density residential zoning height restriction was increased in response to our housing element requirements in order to accommodate higher density development. Scheme 1 does provide a slightly lower parking ratio at 0.88 parking spaces per bed, and it places, again, the 3-story buildings about 80 feet to the single-family residences to the south. In Scheme 2, the overall height is 50 feet, and again, this would be one of the highest this is, the highest residential structure within the city. We have approved other residential projects in kind of the 45 to 48 foot range, but generally where the living areas are located is at around 35 feet. So this would put living units above what we have typically approved in the city. This does provide a slightly higher parking ratio of 1 parking per bed, which we prefer since parking is usually an issue with these types of developments. And the outdoor recreation area, as proposed initially, it was about 80 feet from the residences. I would say that in the new location, you're probably talking about 150 feet from the residence to the south. In terms of just the overall scheme, the two alternatives are fairly similar in terms of how they look, how they're going to respond to the various zoning requirements. They have on-site management and security in both options. The traffic impacts are virtually the same. We're looking at the same number of bedrooms and housing units in each one of the options. The applicant is proposing to have a shuttle service that would provide access to the university and to other city destinations as well. That would help to reduce the amount of vehicle trips that are being generated by the project. We do have an air quality analysis that was generated for the project that shows that it will not have a significant impact, and they have already worked with the San Joaquin Valley Air District to determine that they will not have to pay additional mitigation fees to the Air District in order to comply with Rule 9510. They will be required to pay capital facility fees, just like any other residential project, and will be required to annex into the Community Facilities District Number 2 to pay for infrastructure improvements and ongoing costs of police and fire and parks. The noise ordinance is going to apply to this project, as well as all the other noise mitigation that's been included within the project design. As far as the public agency comments on the project, typically those are technical in nature and are translated into conditions of approval for the project. We did receive one comment that we did respond to from the Department of Toxic Substances. In your package, you have an updated Phase 1 environmental site assessment that looked at this property again in terms of its use as a residential project and basically found that there was no additional mitigation that was required. We received 2 formal letters of opposition. Those were before the Planning Commission meeting. We haven't received any additional written correspondence regarding the project. We received a number of informal comments regarding the project since the Planning Commission meeting, generally those expressing continued concerns about the project. There is a community group that's been formed to oppose the 4-story complex that is being recommended to you tonight, and we did receive one letter of support for the project. The Ten Penn Fund Center also provided a letter indicating that they do not object to the project. At the Planning Commission hearing, we received both opposition and support for the project. The concerns that were expressed in these were the comments that the Planning Commission spent a great deal of time addressing. First, in terms of the 4-story construction, I think there was agreement that among those responding that this was a concern because it wasn't really compatible with the neighborhood. And again, as we pointed out with the 2 options, the applicant is at a point where they need the 180 units and 60 beds. So if you're going to approve a project like this, you need to look at it in terms of its comparison between the 2 different options. In the option, in Scheme 2, which is the option that's being recommended, we feel that the buildings being, the three-story building being removed from that area that would have been directly adjacent to the residential subdivision actually helps to reduce the impacts and the potential impact on privacy for those neighbors. The second item is the interruption of traffic on Monte Vista due to increased activation of the pedestrian phase at the signalized intersections. And there's no doubt that with a student project of this magnitude, you're going to have more students that are going to be crossing the street. We do have 2 signals that are located at Kroll and Dells Lane. And I think I'm just going to ask Mike to come up and just have a little bit of a presentation on traffic and the pedestrian phase. Might as well do that at this point.
As Debbie stated, there are 2 fully activated pedestrian-friendly traffic signals, one at Dells Lane at Monte Vista and the other at Kroll and Monte Vista. As Debbie alluded to, that you will, because there are going to be more opportunity to push the ped buttons, you will have a slight decrease in the efficiencies, but given the current level of service of both those intersections, I do not see this falling into a level of service issue where you'll have tremendous backlog or delay. So from my standpoint, there is no traffic analysis or traffic issues associated with the pedestrian use. If the students use the pedestrian push buttons properly, I think their ability to cross is absolutely safe. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on traffic.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
Just a couple. In regard to the egress of the actual, not pedestrian, but vehicle traffic, how's that going to work for, is it all forced out to Dells, or is it coming off of Monte Vista?
You have right in, right out, right there near the location of where the car wash is, and you also have left, right, full active ingress at Kroll.
And with that, is there a potential, much like the former dorms at 3500 Gear Road, which I resided in, there's a pedestrian lights that are implemented there, which go to nowhere now.
Right.
But is it possible? I mean, let's talk about human nature. To some people, you know, the quickest way is straight. So, is there a way from that entrance straight across to at least do those lights? Because on the 3500 Gear Road, where it comes from Calaveras, it's in the middle of Gear Road. So that's a faster pace there, and there wasn't a liability clearly for that.
Yeah, I believe the reason they had the one on Gear Road, which was the pedestrian at the pedestrian crossing, it's an uncontrolled intersection. They did that because they didn't have a traffic signal. In this case, I believe it would be in our best interest to expedite the use of the traffic signals. You have the proper push buttons and walk, don't walk signs to have an uncontrolled crosswalk halfway between the two with flashing lights. While it may be functional, there is an inherent safety issue. You know, people may or may not stop. We can do everything we can to flash the lights, and hopefully they'll stop. But for whatever reason, sometimes people just don't see those. I would probably recommend that we force or try to force more active use to this traffic signals. But there is the potential that someone might try to take the quickest route between 2 points, which is straight across.
Any other questions or comments for Director Pitcock? All right, I'll let you continue your presentation.
Okay, and then of course, parking is always an issue. One of the comments that the applicant made at the meeting was that they intended to charge a parking fee for students that were utilizing their facility. This was very definitely opposed by the residents. They were concerned again about pushing additional vehicles into the neighborhood if they were to charge for parking. So the Planning Commission did add a condition of approval that said that basically they could not ever charge for parking at the facility, and in fact would encourage parking of the residents in the parking lot that's being provided. There was a great deal of concern about the qualifications of the applicant to run this type of facility and the potential future conversion of this facility to non-student housing. The applicant is going to go into more detail on this in their presentation, but as you can see in the staff report, what we were impressed with this particular group of applicants is that they have a great deal of experience in operating these types of facilities. The firm that is going to manage this particular complex is currently managing over 70,000 beds across the United States and 87 cities, and they have more than 135 student housing projects that they manage. So they have a great deal of knowledge and expertise in this area and are very capable of operating this type of facility. The investors in this particular complex, they do not typically sell their units, and again, they'll talk about that in more detail. They've only sold one of the complexes that they've owned in the past. There were a lot of concerns about the fact that the complex might become what is known as the Sin City down at Cal State University, Fresno. And looking into the issue, you can see the kind of the development pattern that the Sin City area in Fresno, it's kind of those long linear apartment complexes that have parking that's adjacent to the units, almost look like a motel style of development. And they don't tend to be as attractive as what is being proposed in this particular case. We did also take a look at another project that's just to the north of the campus. This is much more in line with the project that's being proposed this evening. You've got that complex that's kind of fully enclosed, and it provides all the amenities in kind of the center part of the development. They have their parking adjacent to the property, and you can see, again, this is a 3-story product, but it's very nicely designed, very similar to the project that's being presented to you this evening. The Planning Commission, again, recommended that you approve Scheme 2, which is the 4-story option. They did add the following conditions. They modified the hours of operation for the volleyball and basketball courts to no later than 10 p.m. on weeknights. They required the construction of a masonry wall between the project and the Yosemite Land Bank properties to the east, and they prohibited the parking charge. The actions that are required from you this evening are to determine whether the environmental effects are significant through the approval of a mitigated negative declaration and monitoring and reporting program, amend the general plan land use designations from community commercial to high density residential. You would be introducing the ordinance for the rezone of the property from PD 267 to PD 272, and then at your next meeting you would be approving the conditions of approval for the plan development. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks. The applicant is here this evening and would like to make a presentation.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Debbie before she steps aside? All right. We'll continue on.
Thank you, Debbie. Mr. Mayor and council members and members of the public, my name is David Moon. It's my pleasure to be here this evening, and I'm here as one of the partners in the development entity, the applicant, and we've had the pleasure of meeting with the Planning Commission about a month ago, and also some of the members of the council, previously not all. We've also had neighborhood meetings and several meetings with your staff. So it's been the process has been a pleasure, and we appreciate the opportunity. I'm just going to give, if I can, not to be redundant, Debbie's done a fine job of explaining our project, the pros and cons, the project as it was originally approved, and then as it's been modified, and in an attempt to mitigate some of the concerns expressed both by the neighbors that we've met with, the staff, and the Planning Commission, and also some of you as well. So initially, I would like to say that I became interested in student housing as a result of putting 4 of my own children through college and finding less than ideal circumstances, and in particular at Cal State Monterey Bay, where my son William, who now works with me, was attending. He encouraged me to look at the possibility of helping the university there develop some student housing, and we did that. And after almost a 5-year process working with the City of Marina and CSUMB and the Fort Ord Rios Authority, we developed a project called the Promontory, which opened a couple of weeks ago. It's fully leased, and it's been a real joy to be able to turn that over. And actually, I drove through that project this morning and saw all the kids there, enjoying the facility. And anyway, something I'm very proud of. But in any event, that's kind of how this came about for me. And since that time, I'm now, and I've been in the development business for almost 40 years, but as I always say, my son is tired of hearing me say, but in any event, we now are focused strictly on student housing. So we've got our second project after opening the Promontory at Cal State Monterey Bay. We've got a second project we're working on with the City of Marina and the university there. We've got a project at Humboldt State University, another one at Sac State, another one that we're going to be starting at San Jose State. So we're kind of focused on the Cal State system, which is really short of good purpose-built housing. And the issue is that most of the Cal State schools, actually most of the universities across the country, are only able to accommodate about 20% of their students on campus. And so typically the kids in the first year, and most universities like to have the freshmen stay on campus in the first year, but typically that experience for the kids is, the students is very positive. But what they find is after the second year, oftentimes, they don't have any student housing available on campus. They're forced to go off campus, and they become somewhat disenfranchised with the university and the whole college atmosphere. And in many cases, they're not even living in communities with fellow students. So what we're trying to do is replicate what you've got on campus, both physically and operationally, so that most of the amenities are geared towards students. We have computer labs, we have study rooms, we have presentation rooms, and then we have social and recreational amenities as well. But we also have resident assistants on each floor, just like they do on campus. We have community assistants that organize, positive activities for the kids like they do on campus. The kids are living, their next door neighbor is a fellow student, so, their fellow student serves as mentors in many cases. So that's our objective, is to create that same positive mentoring environment with all of the facilities to support them that they have on campus, but in their subsequent, years subsequent to their freshman year. So that's the objective that we have in trying to provide this type of housing. And we typically, we're always looking for sites as close as possible to the university so that the kids can walk or ride their bike. And that has obviously, improves the environmental footprint of the project, obviously, but also has less of an impact on the neighbors, because students that might otherwise be living 2 or 3 miles from the campus and have to drive through these communities, and in many cases park because they either don't choose to or can't get parking on campus, park in the neighborhood. They don't have to do that because they can park at the facility and walk across the street or ride their bike. We also, as Debbie mentioned, have a shuttle, and that shuttle goes back and forth to the campus on a regular basis during the day, every day that school's in session. But it also serves to go to community venues. So in the evenings and on the weekends, the kids, again, don't need to use their car. So they can go to shopping, they can go to movies, they can go to other key community venues via the shuttle as well. So anyway, that's kind of the nature, and I'm getting behind here. But I wanted to introduce our development team. Some of our key members of the development team are here today. Our partner in these ventures and all the student housing that my company, Colerain Capital Group, is doing is AmCal Equities, and Stephen Clark from AmCal Equities is here today. Humphreys and Partners is our architect. They're the most prolific student housing architect in the country. They design, I think, more student housing product than any other architect, and they've done a great job for us, and they've served to to give us really good guidance. And Vince Chupka from Humphreys and Partners is here tonight. Hawkins and Associates is a fine local civil engineering firm based in Modesto. Rod Hawkins and Rick D'Onofrio from Hawkins is here with us tonight. Asset Campus Housing is, as Debbie had mentioned, the largest third-party student housing management company in the country. They manage over 70,000 beds in, I think, almost every state in the country. So, and again, they've served as to provide great leadership and guidance and are very helpful. And key member of our development team, and Cynthia Arroyo from Asset Campus Housing is here with us tonight as well. So, and again, we're all here to answer any questions you might have after I get through this. Won't belabor this, but our partner AmCal was founded in 1978 by Percy Vaz. They've developed over 6,000 units throughout California and Texas. They've only ever sold one project. I think they've now developed close to 70 multifamily products throughout the state, primarily in California, but and they've only ever sold one project. I'm not sure why they did that, but that's not their typical business plan. So one of the concerns that has been expressed a few times is whether or not we would stand behind this product, whether or not we would be here, 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 years from now, making sure that it's maintained in a first-class manner. And the history is that AmCal has only ever sold one project. But at the same time, if a project like this is sold, it's sold for a premium price, and any lender or institutional investment firm that would invest in a project like this would have management criteria, minimum management criteria to protect their investment. So you're pretty well assured on a project of this quality as compared to these Sin City buildings that were being mentioned, that there's going to be restrictions and requirements of the owner to maintain it in a first-class manner. But in any event, our goal is to maintain a portfolio of student housing for many years to come. I formed our company in 2000, and again for the last, and we've done all types of development, hotels, shopping centers, apartments, condominiums, but we're now solely focused on student housing and primarily in the Cal State system. I mentioned Humphreys, Hawkins. You know where the site is, obviously right across the street from the campus, which is, just an absolutely ideal location for our type of product. The product as proposed, I don't think Debbie mentioned this, but will be LEED Silver, and all of our projects are LEED Silver minimum. So our objective, the minimum standard would be LEED, and our objective would be actually to get to gold if we can. So, but it will be a minimum of LEED Silver. 180 units, 600 beds, approximately 600 parking spaces. The academic features, and again, we have academic, social, and recreational amenities in these properties, both in the buildings and on the site. The academic features on the interior, we have computer labs, we have presentation rooms, which also double as movie theaters, for social occasions. We typically have what we call an internet cafe, which is a social lounge, essentially. We have a fitness center, and then on the exterior of this project, we're proposing a pool and spa, basketball courts, and volleyball courts. So lots of things for the kids to do, both in terms of supporting their academic endeavors, but also in terms of creating a nice, fun social environment for socializing and recreating. This product that we've proposed is a Humphreys e-urban product, and this is a product that is in use on, I think, over 20 campuses across the country. So this is kind of a tried and true product that has been used and improved over the years, and that was one of the reasons that we were kind of led to Humphreys, was because this was something that we could go out and touch and feel and get feedback from other owners on. The way this is operated, it's operated, again, just like it would be on campus, where we have full-time, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week management. So there's always somebody that's accountable both to the residents, their parents, the neighborhood. Unlike, the animal house kind of absentee landlord situations, which are all too common close to universities, just because, again, there's nowhere else for the kids to go. And so all too often houses, that were designed for one family are now, accommodating 6 or 7 or 8 kids. And unfortunately, in those cases, typically the landlord doesn't reside there. So when there is a problem, and young kids are young kids, and we can't do anything about changing that. We're glad that they are. But in any event, sometimes they get a little rambunctious if they're in a house that doesn't have a landlord, or even in a small apartment project that doesn't have a full-time landlord there. Then there's nobody, in the middle of the night to address those issues. And so that can be a real problem in communities, particularly around universities. And so, again, this type of product, the way it's designed and the way it's managed is an attempt to mitigate a lot of those problems. So we're concentrating kids where they're living with their fellow students, they're studying, they're doing all the things that they did in the facilities on campus, off campus, but there's somebody there that's accountable. So if there is an issue, there is a phone number or even a place to go, because we have management on site 24 hours a day, 7 day a week. So, and then we also have zero tolerance leases. So if kids are violating, the conduct rules, both on property and within their neighborhood, then they're accountable. And if they break the rules, they can be evicted. And the parents have to sign on those leases. So when they drop their kids off at school, they know that, and this is great housing. And again, as a parent myself, I wish there was this type of housing available to my kids when they went to school. But there's a lot to lose if you do violate the rules. So there's accountability in that respect. Again, we have resident assistants on each floor. So they help to with the community assistants, they help to organize positive, safe, non-alcohol-based activities for the kids. But they're also there to serve as mentors to the kids. So we have gated access control. Typically we would keep the gate open during the day and just close the gate in the evening, typically around 8 or 9 o'clock, so that you would need a card key to get in. Each individual bedroom has its own bathroom, and it's lockable, so there's privacy for each of the students. We have security cameras throughout, again, just as some reassurance for the parents and the residents that they have a safe environment. And then we have these buildings have state-of-the-art life safety systems as well, fire life safety systems. We have, again, as I mentioned, I'll go through this more quickly, but volleyball, basketball courts on the outside of the buildings, swimming pool, fitness center, study rooms. I mentioned all those things. Community quiet hours typically are between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. And then we have special quiet hours during exam periods during the year. So, again, management 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The shuttle bus I mentioned, the RAs I mentioned. Again, each student has their own bedroom. This doesn't show the desk, but each of the bedrooms has a bed and a side table, and then there's a desk over here with a lamp, and then they have their own bathroom. So it's pretty nice accommodation. The rents, by the way, our goal is to meet the same, be as close as possible to the rent that they've been paying as a freshman on campus. So at Cal State Monterey Bay, that was our objective, and we were able to meet that, and our hope would be to do the same thing here. So typically it would be, for the parents and the students going from freshman year on campus to maybe their sophomore year, their budget shouldn't change, too much, which again is a problem sometimes for kids. Again, this just speaks to the fact that the majority of students nowadays, well, in all universities across the country, definitely in the Cal State system, but it's typically 75% of the students are not able to be accommodated on campus. At this university, less than 10% are able to be accommodated on campus. talks about the mini dorms. Just real quickly, I'll just show you a couple of pictures of our project at Cal State Monterey Bay, but that was a project very similar to this, 174 units, 579 beds. And that project, by the way, leased up within a week, actually 2 days. So all 579 beds were leased in 2 days. That is a LEED Silver project. That's a photograph of the project. And then we've got our second project in the planning stage with the university there. And this is a picture of the promontory just before it opened a few weeks ago. This is our internet cafe. It's also part of the internet cafe, which again is just really a gathering spot for the kids. This is the presentation room where the kids practice their presentations. There's a screen on the wall over here. And this furniture all moves around so that they can set it up in different ways. But it's a place for them to work on projects, to practice presentations, and then for movie night they can use it as movie night. And that's the common area in a 4-bedroom unit. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms. Each of those bedrooms lock off. They share this living room and this kitchen. That's. I took way longer than I wanted to have.
Right.
I'm sure you wanted me to, but anyway, in a nutshell, a big nutshell, that's kind of what we, what we do and what we're proud to present here. So my team members, my fellow team members, and I are here to answer any questions.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments for Mr. Moon at this time from the council? All right. If not, I'm going to open it up for public. Well, actually, Debbie, do you want to round anything out? Oh, please move the microphone over. Mrs. Cross, I'm very sorry. 15 to 20 minutes it went to. I'll blame Mr. Moon, but come on up and kick us off. And then Nanette will get to you right afterwards, if that's okay.
Probably answered a few questions.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
That's great.
I'm certain that the developers, and I've been in meetings with them for 3 times now, have really worked hard to present this reliable development that will be an asset to the university. I do have one concern, though. In being at the Planning Commission meeting, it was very evident that they were worn out and weary from all the developments that had come. And there were a few issues that they really didn't address. And I think that some of those should be really addressed before the whole thing's approved. And one thing they did talk about a lot today is the traffic. I have a reason to go down Monte Vista quite often in the early morning, and the college students that are parked, because they're all parked all over, can spend a lot of time getting across there, and they get to push a button, but we as cars don't get to push a button. So I'm concerned about that with 600 additional students trying to cross the street, that maybe they should be thinking of something else, maybe a overpass or something, some way of getting across. That's one thing. My biggest concern, and I noticed they had it up there, and they probably got that from me, was the future of the development. And I hope, and in the way you have presented it, it sounds like you have your things together in trying to eliminate the future will not turn into what Fresno State did, okay? And I should tell you why I feel this way so strongly. I attended Fresno State, and it was a beautiful place. It was just lovely. But I have a son-in-law that's a pilot for the Fresno City Police. And he's made many mentions about this area that is the worst place for them to patrol. And I couldn't fathom where it could be, because to me, the whole area was nice farmland and nice little apartments and stuff like that. So before I went to the Planning Commission, I made I wanted to find out the facts on this. I didn't want to say something that wasn't true. And here's what I found out. It was set up for students only. It was not established by the university. It was a private one, which we're talking about here too. And for a while, it was very good. But what happened is they apparently, I don't know if they didn't have enough students, and this is what I have a question about this later, but enough students, or they didn't get them out when they got out of college, or what? But pretty soon the drug people came in. Okay, then after that, a lot of the students left, and then the crime came in, and now it's just a very bad area for Fresno City. And I am so concerned that something will be established that we're talking about when I'm probably gone, that's still going to be a real good place for our college students, and it's not going to turn into a slum. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Another thing too, it's going to be hard to turn, you're going to have to really have something down good pat, because discriminating for people in housing is really hard. I don't know how you're going to do it. If you can go through the college and maybe have them recommend the students, so you know that there are students, you know when they get out of school, that they get out of the place and they're no longer there. I don't know. That's something I really feel needs to be worked out. Okay, another thing I put down here is, from what I understand, the university police pretty much patrol around the college, okay? Maybe there's something you can work out with them, some contract, where they will patrol this too. So, you know, that it is taken care of. I don't know how that can be either. But those are really concerns. I was concerned of the long-term condition and rules and regulations and so on that you're going to have there. And also, I do think the traffic is more than what the staff says. Now, I kind of rambled. I'm sorry. It's late and I haven't had a thing to eat. But anyway, at the meeting, too, there was many issues, quite a bit of talk about the height. And I feel that is something that should really be addressed, because it's not fair for the houses around to have this huge thing standing over. I can see why you did it, because you wanted the 600 beds. What about knocking one of the buildings off and go down to the 3 stories? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Absolutely. Next person we have is Nanette.
Council, members of the great community of Turlock. I am one of the residents that back up to the property that is about to be developed. And I'm talking for the people around me. I'm the only one of the 6 houses developed that are the projects run through that's not retired. Everyone else around me is all retired. So when we heard that this 6th story, that we're going to be having only 7 feet worth of a building, looking up at a 50 feet high building, is just not feasible in the area that it is. It's surrounded by businesses on one side and residential's on 3 different other sides. And we have a big concern that we have a water problem in Turlock, and you're going to add 600 toilets, 600 showers, and where are we going to get this water? I mean, it's going to cost the city money to get this water. Not only that, there is going to be a real park. There's going to be 24/7 cars in, cars out, going here, going there. The shuttle, you know how kids are. They're not going to want to wait for a bus to take them to Rayleigh's or to wherever. No, they're going to get in their car and they're going to go, and they're going to do whatever they want. Also, when I went to the Planning Commission meeting, Victor Pedroza talked about when he picked up his daughter at UC Santa Barbara, I believe it was, that when he went to pick up his daughter, he literally had to walk over kegs of beer to go pick up his daughter. And this is going to going to be a big problem too, because even though you do have on-site, kids are going to be kids. And I know they're adults, but they're still kids in my book when I'm 64 years old. So I think that having a 4-story in a residential area as such is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. The developers aren't even from our area, so the money is not going to be spent here in Turlock, except for, of course, the tax revenue and stuff like that. And then I also checked with the university, and this is the first year that their housing on the campus has been filled. The lady I spoke with said that she's been there for 10 years, and this is only the first year that on campus has been full. So I'm seeing a point where if they can't even fill the campus, how are they going to fill 600 units? So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address the council on this issue? Yes, please. Yeah, please come to the microphone. Thank you. I'm keeping track, so hopefully Mr. Moon will be able to address some of these concerns.
My name is Michael Sloan, and I live 2 blocks away from where they plan to build at. I wanted to know what age groups are you targeting for your student housing? Because I saw on one of the slides he was guaranteeing an alcohol-free environment. So how are you going to address and control underage drinking?
Mr. Moon, yeah, if we're going to have it back and forth, we just try and get you on the microphone if that's possible.
Okay.
So do you have any additional questions? Because I'm kind of keeping a running tally for
Mr. Moon. It's the underage drinking concern. Okay. I was in college. I stayed at the same dorms that you stayed at, and we did have RAs there, but we did have people that was over 21 that was able to contribute to underage drinking. So I wanted to know, do you have a plan? What is your plan to address that?
Okay. All right, we'll add that to the list if that's okay, and we'll have them. Perfect. Any other comments?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else from the public like to address the council on this issue? All right, we'll keep public participation open, but Mr. Moon, if you'd like to come to the microphone, there's a few things I've noted, and you've been making notes as well. We can start working backwards, and we can start with the underage drinking.
If you don't mind, I'd like to invite Cynthia Arroyo from Asset Campus Housing. And again, this is our management company, but Asset Campus has had years of experience dealing with these issues. So I don't know if you'd like to address that specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think, these people that live there are typically guaranteed by their parents. They're 18 to 21, sometimes over, if we had grad students. So they're able to do what normal functioning adults would do. And as a management company, we oversee that process. So if they're loud, if they're drinking in their units, of course we'll go and talk with them about that and hopefully cure the problem right then and there. But they're able to do what any functioning adult would do in a normal environment.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question on that topic. Is there anything that would it be prohibited for them to have alcoholic beverages outside of their dorm rooms in the public areas?
Well, I mean, they could have alcohol in a separate container, but they can't bring beer cans or glass bottles outside or anything like that. We would not allow that to happen.
So they can't sit around the pool drinking alcohol?
Well, I don't think we'll go and, sniff every glass or anything like that. Of course, they could bring to the pool whatever they like, as long as it wasn't in a glass container.
All right, thank you. On any other questions on this topic, we're just going to kind of try and move our way through these. But, yes, Councilmember Bublock.
Actually, if just real quick, we could have a university police present real quick what kind of calls for service you're getting at your dorms in relation, what type of calls you get. Are they alcohol related mostly? Are there that many calls at all? Because it'll kind of give us an understanding of what's going on just around the corner.
Is there any representative from the
I'm not sure.
University Police?
Maybe Chief, no?
Not to put you on the spot, Chief, sorry. Actually, I don't think Councilmember Bublock is sorry. No, he's ever.
You look like you need to get up and walk around.
Yeah.
stretch out my legs a little bit. So the question is, Councilmember Black, is what kind of impacts we'd have from the college, or the take as far as the impact to the university police or the police department in Turlock?
So basically the dorms. I mean, what kind of calls for service? I was also a resident advisor and resident manager, so I know when I was there, which was many, many years ago, it was a little different than it is probably today. So if you have an idea of what calls of service, because don't you guys dispatch?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have calls at there. It's not real common on the facilities on campus. The police department at the university does take care of those. We do back them up. We dispatch for them, but it's not a huge burden. We don't see a lot of calls there, but we do have some. And but you know, it's pretty well managed. I think the key is the management of the location and then what you have in place as far as you know, preventing and deterrence and such. And I know the university focuses quite a bit on that. I do see a relationship between the university and the police department as far as responding to a situation like this. They'll still back us up, but the primary responsibility, I think, will fall on the police department, which could create some calls for service, but you're going to get that with any type of residential complex. But I don't see this being a huge burden on the police department.
Any other questions or comments on this from the council? All right. Well, some of the answers might not be satisfactory to those in the audience. I'm going to try and move this conversation along to say that I think that this question was answered. So we'll keep moving on. Oh, the cookies are being passed around. Since this is on the topic, University Police and having them have a cooperative relationship with the University Police, can you speak to some of your other projects, or what do you envision for CSU Stanislaus?
Sure. Well, we invite the universities to participate in what we call an affiliation agreement. So with that affiliation agreement, we typically address police, and we address well, different things depending upon the university, but the RA, the Residence Life Program, for instance, where we try to tie some of our activities in our Residence Life Program into the universities. That's what we did at Cal State Monterey Bay, and we actually have an affiliation agreement with them where we even tie into their utility grid there, as a matter of fact. But that's, you know, that's very comprehensive. But we've met with the university a few times already. I think they've been waiting to see what would happen with the project as we went through the approval process. So hopefully once we have the project entitled, then we'll go back to the university. And ideally, not necessarily with the police, although that will be on the table, but definitely the Residence Life Program would be something that we'd like to affiliate with them on. And in some cases, for instance, at CSUMB, there was an issue between the City of Marina and CSUMB, so there was a bit of a question as to who, you know, which entity would prefer to control that. In the first year, it's going to be the University of, the City of Marina is actually taking the lead. In the second year, the university is going to be taking the lead. So, but anyway, we're open to that. The stronger affiliation we have, the better, as far as we're concerned.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this point? All right. Another one that I've mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, if your list, I'm working backwards. The idea that Mrs. Cross talked about discrimination regarding housing. So how are you able to legally just rent out to students at Stanislaus? I think you've probably figured that out, but can you walk us through that?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not aware of any legal precedents that have challenged that, but we require that all of our students be full-time students at the university, and so they provide proof of that. Many times we get it directly from the university. Again, that's part of the affiliation agreement, and so that would, you know, that's what we would do here. But we've never been challenged on that. There is literally hundreds of thousands of purpose-built student housing, you know, units across the country, and so they operate, you know, mostly exclusively for students in their, you know, in their university neighborhood. So I'm not aware that's ever been challenged, but yeah.
Great. Any questions or comments from the council on that item? All right. Another one that was brought up was our water issues, 600 toilets and 600 showers. Nanette, you mentioned that. Could you go into more of the either the LEED certification or what you envision as far as water use for this complex?
Yeah, we have some pretty good, I don't have it off the top of my head, but we have some pretty good data on water usage. Again, at CSUMB, we did an extensive water survey down there because in that case, in particular in the Monterey Peninsula, water is very scarce, and so every project that gets approved down there, water allotments are a big issue. But it's no more than a typical multifamily project. In fact, less in a lot of respects because the kids aren't there, all the time like families are. But those kids are going to be flushing their toilets and having showers no matter where they are. So we're not increasing that impact. We're redistributing it maybe, but those kids are going to be using facilities no matter where they are within this community. So.
All right. Any questions or comments on that item? All right. Another one was the reference to a Sin City neighborhood supposedly in Fresno State. Have you researched this, and do you know any similarities or dissimilarities?
There's no similarity
Okay.
whatsoever. I mean, no different than a Class A family apartment project in Turlock versus a lesser project somewhere else. But it's you have the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to multifamily, and it typically stems from the ownership and the management. And we deal with all the top lenders. In this case, it's going to be Bank of the West, who we have a really good relationship with. But no lender in this quality of project would ever put up with that kind of operation that they're depicting at Sin City. I mean, that would be a violation of your loan agreements, and it certainly isn't in the best interest of anybody that would invest a dime. Our intent is that this project 30 years from now will look exactly like it does the way, when it's opened, essentially. And so that's the way you stay in this business long term. People that operate properties like that don't typically stay in this business very long, and I've been in this business for almost 40 years. Amcal's been in this business for almost 40 years. So that's, you see that, but that's a shame, and it's not what you're going to see here.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from the council on this item? All right, and then just one last one that I have, and then you might have other notes, talking about pedestrian crossing and perhaps an overpass or a safer way other than the crosswalks. Not to say those aren't safe methods to get from one side to the other, but have you done any research into pedestrians moving from one side to the other?
Well, not at this specific location. We've deferred to Debbie and Mike on this, and they have the data that we don't have. But again, in many cases, many of the students that will be living at this project are probably, I hate to say it, but probably, but it's obvious if you drive around the university during the day, they're parking in those neighborhoods right now. They're not parking, like they will in here in a uniform parking lot where they've, where they're a resident, but unfortunately they're parking in those neighborhoods now. So it's a lot of those same kids, frankly, that are going to be, that are currently walking across the street. But in terms of the additional impact, I would defer to Debbie and Mike on that, frankly.
All right. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments on this issue from Debbie or Mike? Either of you on this? No? No is a sufficient or okay answer.
Okay, no.
All right. Yeah, Councilmember Nascimento.
And I think, first we'll go to you. There was a question of demand raised, and I was a graduate of CSU Stanislaus, lived 2 miles away, but I drove to class every day, right? And it's a huge commuter campus. It's known for being a commuter campus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have done your market research, but maybe you could address that issue for sort of the peace of mind of some of the residents.
Yeah, well, the CSU system, and if you talk to any of the, talk to the people in the chancellor's office, or you talk to the administrators or presidents of these universities, as we do on a constant basis. But for years, they've been known as commuter schools because they started out as commuter schools. But for the most part, the majority of the students do not live at home, i.e., commute from home to school in their neighborhood. Most of them live on their own. And so it's basically, and again, all of the administrators and the presidents at the various universities in the Cal State system will tell you they're not commuter schools. Most of these kids are paying for housing somewhere, within a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. But in terms of demand, there is exceptionally strong demand. I mean, we had a lot of the same concerns expressed about our project at Cal State Monterey Bay, and as I mentioned, all 579 beds actually leased up in 2 days, but in terms of the documentation, it took a week to get them all documented. But and there's a similar demographic, frankly, at Cal State Monterey Bay as there is in this community. A lot of farming families and whatnot. But in any event, no, we have no concerns whatsoever about the demand. We know that there's a strong demand for quality housing. So yeah, we're not concerned about that.
So the intent is to build all the structures at the same time. This isn't going to be a phase
correct.
or anything.
That's
okay.
right. Yeah.
And then I do have a few questions for Debbie.
Yes, actually.
Sorry,
if
we
it's
have
okay,
oh yeah, sure.
Is open. So Mrs. Cross, if you had another, yeah, please. And there's some cookies nearby that microphone, conveniently placed if you'd like one.
I have a question. Say you're not able to fill your units. Okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to leave them vacant?
I know, I'm trying.
No, say you don't fill your 60 every year. What happens to the remaining? You leave them vacant? No, but I mean, you would not, under any circumstance, lease them to anyone that is not a student. Okay, that's very important, I think.
Thank you.
If I could comment on that too, one of the conditions of approval that's been proposed by the city is that a covenant be recorded against the deed of this property that would limit it only to be rented to students. And if for some reason they violated that, the city would initiate litigation, and the applicant would be on the hook for covering those costs. So we're working to safeguard ourselves in that regard as well, because we share your concern.
Yeah, Councilmember Bublock.
So if my recollection is many years ago, there was sometimes a faculty would come and stay at the dorms for a semester or something like that. Is that potential?
Given the condition that's been imposed on us, that would be up to the city whether or not they were going to give us that leeway. We would prefer to have that leeway if we could. For instance, in the summer months, sometimes, and that was part of our affiliation agreement. One of the items in our affiliation agreement with Cal State Monterey Bay, where actually they do have some faculty during the summer when there are units available, when they have conferences and whatnot. So, but that's not something, frankly, that's been addressed with staff. But we would like that latitude, but it's not a requirement as far as we're concerned.
Any other anything on your list that Mr. Moon that I missed that you'd like to address from the? Do you want to address the shuttle briefly? Sorry.
These shuttles are used very extensively, and so it's kind of an education process, frankly, both with the students and their parents. But you can't force the kids to use the shuttle, obviously. But in terms of the cost of gas and wear and tear on the car and everything else, first of all, they'd be foolish to drive their car to campus because it's literally a stone's throw, and so that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Plus, they're having to pay for parking on campus, and plus, one of the as everybody knows, in this neighborhood, the kids that are going there now aren't paying for they don't want to park on campus, and that's why they're parking in the neighborhood. In our case, the kids have a parking space, but there's no reason for them, frankly, to use the shuttle unless maybe it's raining or they've got special needs. But anyway, that shuttle's there to them all day long, every day, and again, to community venues. So you can't force them, to use it to go to Rayleigh's, for instance, but it certainly makes a lot of sense to do so.
All right. Thank you. So this public participation is still open. Are there any additional new questions that you have for Mr. Moon before we close public participation? Yes, please, Nanette. Please, to the microphone. I know, formalities. But again, the cookies are quite close, so. Subtle hint.
If, and it sounds like this is going to happen, which doesn't make me happy at all, but are these going to be co-ed? Are these going to be a boy unit, girl unit? Because there can be a lot of situations happen if it's co-ed. That's a concern.
Okay. Can you describe the units? Are they co-ed, or how are they disaggregated?
Maybe I could have Cynthia help me, but different schools have different rules. Each person has their own bedroom, and each bedroom locks off. We actually haven't gotten to that point on this particular project with Asset Campus. That's one of the things that we'll be talking about, but maybe you can tell us how you typically...
Sure. It's typical that a lot of people come in and say, I want to live as a group with 2 boys and 2 girls, and they get along just fine. Then there's groups of girls that come in. There's people that need to be matched. A lot of times they want to be matched with boys, and there are girls, so we let them choose.
Could you speak to the resident assistants and some of the training that you guys are hoping to have an affiliation with the university and some of the resident assistants that they provide for these floors? And they're not just supervisors or chaperones. These are individuals that have a little bit of background and training on circumstances when there's men and women in the same facility, correct?
Well, again, we have paid managers, not to be confused with the RAs. The RAs are actually students, typically senior students, that have kind of earned that right, but they go through a training program. Asset Campus, one of the reasons that we wanted to affiliate with Asset Campus is because they're known to have a very extensive training program for their community assistants and resident assistants. So these are actually, the RAs and the CAs are students that have been trained. And so they work in tandem with the paid management staff.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any additional new questions or comments from the public? Yes, one more in that.
Now, they have to adhere to no construction before 7 a.m. in the morning. Is this correct? And stopping at a certain point? Because nobody wants to, be hearing tractors and everything going at 6 o'clock in the morning.
No one wants to hear that, and no one wants to hear neighbors complaining about that, trust me. So
no. And also,
Director
too,
Pitcock.
when we have to call in, we better have the hotline, because I know we're going to be making lots of calls over there.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Bublock, what's your cell phone number? We're going to give that out. Yeah. Director Pitcock.
911.
Yeah.
We will assure that they will not be working prior to 7 a.m. nor after. I think it's 8 p.m. It depends on if it's a weekday or weeknight or weekend. There's different hours, but we'll make sure they follow those. If they do not, absolutely give us a call, and we make sure that the contractor does adhere to those time hours. If they do not, we can always cite them with our administrative citation process and fine them for not doing things properly. So, but it is something that we are very adamant on, that they follow the noise ordinance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public or the council while public participation is still open? Councilmember Bublock.
Mr. Moon, I'm totally appreciated faculty being there. The more adults present, the more people were inclined to behave. So what are your other jurisdictions, such as Monterey? How did they handle it?
Well, we didn't have that same restriction in Monterey, so they allowed it. They allowed faculty or students. So both the city of Marina and CSUMB, and so in our affiliation agreement with the university, again, we're allowing, if there are units available during the summer, then on a case-by-case basis, we're allowing them not only to use some of the units, but also, for instance, that presentation room I mentioned and that kind of thing. So,
right.
Our hope would be that we will have an affiliation agreement with CSUMB once this project gets, Stanislaus, and once the project gets approved. And but we would, given this condition, we would have to come back, obviously, to the city and ask for permission to do so.
Okay. And then a question for Ms. Whitmore then. Changing the language at this point, how would we go about adding the language to include that they have that option at this point?
Yes, you have condition number 4 that reads that residents of the complex will be limited to adult students 18 years of age and older. You could simply add to that, and members of the faculty at Cal State University Stanislaus.
All right, any other questions or comments from the public before I close public participation? All right, seeing none, I will close public participation. I want to thank everyone that did comment and go from here and bring it back to the council for consideration.
But before we do that, I wanted to just give my input before we make our vote.
Well, absolutely. That's the whole, point, bringing it back.
I appreciate how the developer has actually sort of crafted and changed their plan of the project responding to the community concerns. Originally, the project, from what I understand, was supposed to have 800 units. So they cut down their units by 1/4 to eliminate that building that is closest to the residents that are behind the property. They've also moved the other buildings farther back. So I think that it's important to note that as the dialogue that has been taking place between the community, that it's being heard, and so I certainly appreciate that. And then also, are we going to have a shuttle that's going to come to city council meetings on Tuesday nights? But other than that, I'd be happy to introduce the two resolutions together, Madam Attorney. Is that
more? You can introduce it, but we'll have more discussion.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, Councilmember Diaz. Well, whoever would like to go. Consideration means we can have a discussion about this. Yes.
Mr. Moon, thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a question, sir, with respect to whether or not we've had any consideration for taking the 4-story building and making it a 4-story building. In other words, submerging the first deck such that we could mitigate the height of the overall structure. Have we given any consideration to that? What kind of feasibility or problem would that cause?
It causes a lot of problems. We haven't considered that. I mean, it adds, a huge layer of cost to the project, both in terms of the structures, but also in terms of the site work and the infrastructure, the on-site infrastructure. So it holds, I mean, that's been done before, obviously, but typically it's done because there are geographical constraints, physical constraints that cause that or require that. But anytime you're adding those kinds of, and that would be extensive. I mean, the cost, and we have our engineers and architects here, but I know, having done projects that where we needed to do that, we had to do that. It adds a lot of cost. Every dime that we add to this ultimately gets us further away from our goal of providing affordable housing for the kids at Stanislaus. So one of the reasons we've gone with Humphreys and the E-Urban design is because it's a very cost-effective design. And once we start, changing that design and doing extraordinary things, then that adds layers of cost, and it's harder for us to meet our goal of affordability for the kids. So that's all I would say about that.
Okay. Well, the only reason I asked the question is prior to the vice mayor and the mayor and others being born, I was in the basement of a.
Yeah.
So I'm just I'm going back and reflecting. Is there any possibility here in terms of then being able to mitigate some of that exposure?
Yeah. Well, physically, I guess just about anything can be done. But my concern, council member, would and I appreciate the creativity and the thought, and it's certainly been done. But my concern would be just the cost associated with doing that. So.
And then an additional follow-up, if I could, with Debbie. Debbie, could you put the picture of the site plan, the artist rendering, up on the screen? Just have a couple of questions about identifying for people what I think I saw. The topographical. That'll work. In the bottom right-hand corner, I see the green horizontal running from the edge of the property to Dell's. What is that?
Basically, it's an open area because we're not providing any kind of access to Dell's Lane. It'll be an open kind of grassy area that they don't plan to use.
Who?
This project. They own that portion of the property, but they will not be developing it. It's not quite laid out for parking. It's not deep enough to have parking at that location, and they're not going to have any kind of access. And that was in response to some of the comments from the neighborhood, where they were concerned about having traffic actually exit onto.
See, even our staff don't use microphones sometimes. So thank you, Debbie.
So they were very concerned about having traffic exiting onto Dell's Lane. Originally, when this little strip of land was created, it was to provide a driveway into the commercial complex that was going to be developed as this was designated for community commercial. But since there was a lot of concern from the neighborhood about the potential for cross-traffic going from the project to the commercial areas to the east, the applicant decided to eliminate that access onto Dells.
Okay, I guess I understand that, but running vertically down the edge of the property in question, we're going to put in a masonry wall. It's going to come all the way down to the fence line.
It's going to come down to this fence line, and then this will be the open wrought iron style.
So by design, we're turning that into a park.
It's basically an open area, yeah, that the students could use. It's going to be fenced in, though. I mean, this area here will be fenced in with a wrought iron fence. It'll be part of the complex.
Okay. I guess I wasn't expecting that. I understand concern from the people on Dells. I understand the people's concern in the houses adjacent to that, just south of it. It's almost kind of like it's a built-in security concern, in my view. I don't know how to. I still don't know what I think, but I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Okay, very good.
If I could piggyback on that.
Good?
Yeah.
While we're,
Okay,
while we're on that
Councilman.
topic, that does seem like sort of just an awkward dead space and potential for.
Well, again, when it was originally kind of mapped out as part of the map that went with the project to the north and the east, is that they left this sliver so that they could have a driveway access, because originally this was going to be a commercial complex.
No, I understand that. It's including as part of the project. It's just, I think, the neighbors who live there, I think, might have some concern with that sort of open space being right behind their home. It sort of creates in my view, would create sort of a blind spot where activity that you may not want to occur could occur.
And I'm not quite sure what they would use that for. Maybe the applicant can.
And for the record, have
that.
any neighbors complained about this design?
No.
With that? Right.
No,
So
we
no
haven't
neighbors
had any
have
complaints about that specifically.
Okay. Right.
One of the things that, and I understand the issue, obviously. One of the things that came up, I think, at the Planning Commission meeting was the idea of possibly deeding that to the neighbors, the commercial farm credit, I think they're called. And maybe as a trade-off, or they wanted us, they attended that Planning Commission meeting, and as a result of concerns that they had about kind of privacy, and particularly with that pool being distracting to people in their office, we agreed to build that masonry wall. And someone had suggested, well, maybe they help you with the cost of that, and in turn you give them this property. But in any event, we'd be more than happy to talk to the folks there and see if they would, if we could come to an agreement where they would take ownership of that strip. In that event, I'm assuming it would just be more paved area, but it would be an extension of what's there already. So essentially right now what you've got there, as you may know, is you've got a parking lot with lights and then just a dirt strip. So in this depiction, there would be that parking lot with lights and a landscape strip. So, the alternative to that, I suppose, would be if they took ownership, for instance, they could pave that, but I don't think there's enough room for any more parking anyway, is there? We thought it was going to be an EVA, an emergency vehicle access, but no one wanted that. So we kind of approached this project thinking that's what that would be, but as it turned out, the neighbors didn't want that. I think the planning staff suggested that wasn't the best alternative. So we're open to any suggestions, frankly. It doesn't, benefit us right now in any way, frankly.
Okay, Councilman Nasmeo.
Is the access to that area blocked off from Dells Lane? Would that be wrought iron, or something? Is there something that would block off access to that area?
Well, that's what they're proposing at this point. Frankly, when we started the process, we were looking for this to be at least an emergency access for the project, but in response to the neighbors' comments, they agreed to block it off.
Yeah, I guess my concern, I mean, those awkward areas sometimes just, things just accumulate there that, it's an easy place for people to dump things, trash accumulates, that sort of thing. So, but, if it's part of the project, maybe that helps alleviate some of that and that it's being managed and maintained. And so, and the masonry wall on the south side goes all the way out to Dell's Way, is that correct? And
Now, the masonry wall would come down to this point, and then this would be open. Again, if you end up with a solid block wall, again, you have a solid fence on the south side, then again, you wouldn't have any kind of visibility into that area. At least by having the open wrought iron style fence, you would still have, visibility into.
So it's not necessarily a masonry block wall, but solid fencing on the south.
No, this is masonry down to this point.
Sure, on the south end of the property.
And the south end would be the privacy fence, which is wood fence, that would be adjacent to the residential fence that's already there.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilmember Jacob.
The idea maybe might be to close that off and gate it only access to the landscapers or whoever's maintaining the greenery there, so that it's not something that people are able to. I get what you guys are saying. People would go back there and sort of inviting to that activity.
Yeah, but at some point, I'm not really worried about the students using it and the activity they're doing. It's vagrants and that type of thing that may find it a nice little hidden spot for them to set up shop. And so, and I don't know if keeping students out helps or hurts that situation, but that's just, I think it's just a concern, and maybe there's a way for you guys to address or just be thoughtful of it as you're developing the property.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, Councilmember Nascimento.
Debbie, there's a 15-foot front yard setback for the structure that faces Monte Vista, correct?
This would be, I'm sorry, let me grab this. Along Monte Vista, you're looking at a 20-foot setback, roughly, and then you're looking at a 15 along Kroll.
The 20-foot setback on Monte Vista, I mean, it's a very suburban standard, and this is a very urban project. Is there a reason for the setback other than?
Well, again, it's more of the standard that we have for our high-density residential. We also like to have, kind of an open area rather than having the fencing immediately on the property line. I think if you wanted to move it to 10 feet or some other number, then that would be fine.
There'll be wrought iron fencing that runs across that front?
Correct.
Okay,
There will be wrought iron fencing that runs along that setback area.
Okay.
So basically, the fencing is at that setback.
Okay. And then I have to jump on my parking soapbox. Do you guys utilize double stripe parking in your parking lots by any chance? Okay. Would you guys be open to that as a condition of approval? Basically, just the parking spaces is like my big issue. The parking spaces are the same size, but the striping actually forces vehicles to subconsciously park actually in the middle of the parking spaces, so you don't have as many ding doors and everything, and it just makes for a more pleasant parking experience. All right, thank you.
You still get 600 spots in?
Yeah, it doesn't change the size of the parking spaces whatsoever. Anyway, okay, that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Good. All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? Yes, Councilmember DeHart.
I'm sorry, I did have one other. Could you point out the locations for the Dempsey dumpsters? I think noise abatement for those residences are key issues as well. Where are those dumpsters?
You have one located here, you have another there, and I believe there's another up in this area. But again, those could be moved relatively easily. There's more of a concept plan.
Concept, yeah.
Yeah, and again, the residences are from this point to the east. So this is across from the park.
And of course, in the still night or early morning air, that's really gonna resonate, and so I'm a little concerned.
It could be moved pretty easily.
Yeah, if there's another, I think we talked about that, David.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we could move that away in their final plans.
Any other questions or comments? We do have an introduction of the both resolutions, and City Attorney, can you take both at the same time? Or Councilman Jacob, do you have something to say?
At the request of Madam Attorney, I will do each one individually.
Great.
So I'd like to...
We do what the Madam Attorney says, so...
So I'll introduce the resolution adopting the Mitigated Negative Declaration and Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program for the Vista Student Housing Project.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Bublock. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. What is the pleasure of the council for the rest of these items? Oh, would you on a roll?
So I'll introduce the resolution. What's that? Adopting General Plan Amendment 2015-03, the Student Vista Housing.
All right, do I have a second? Councilmember, I'll give it to Councilmember DeHart.
Second.
He was so eager to advance it earlier. So a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0.
I'll introduce the ordinance amending the zoning map of the City of Turlock, California, attached to Title IX of the Turlock Municipal Code, rezone 2015-01, Plan Development 272, the Vista Student Housing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. To be acted upon on September 22nd is the establishment of conditions of approval for plan development.
And I'd like to make a note that under Planning Division 668-5640, Item 4, that it will read, the residents of the complex shall be limited to adult students 18 years of age and older and members of faculty at California State University, Stanislaus.
All right. We take a vote on this?
I think that we're just directing staff.
We're just directing staff, okay.
Debbie, is that all you need?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Are we good? All right, look at City Clerk, too. All right, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the developers. We're looking forward to seeing the progress. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to acknowledge Debbie. She came here on her vacation day from Lake Tahoe
Nice.
to present this, so...
Well, we'd like to acknowledge your whole team for their hard work, and we also, like I said, acknowledge...
You gotta have it.
Oh, really? We also would like to acknowledge those that came out and gave comments against this project, but I think that hopefully this will be a good thing for the community. I'm assured that it'll be a good thing for the community, not just City of Turlock, but also the campus community. So thank you. With that, we're going to power through. Request to approve moving on to scheduled matters. Yes. We are moving on to 8A, request to approve an agreement between California State University Stanislaus and the City of Turlock to offer college students internships and service learning experience. Mrs. Jacobs-Hunter.
Good evening. I'm going to keep on the Stanislaus roll here.
Yeah.
Before you for your consideration is an agreement between the City of Turlock and California State University Stanislaus for the college internship program. This is a program that's been going on for quite a few years. It's extremely beneficial to the city and to the students. And this evening we have Julie Fox from Stanislaus. She is the Director of Service Learning, and I'll give her an opportunity if she'd like to say anything about the agreement, or if you're okay, I can just see if they have any questions. Okay. I can answer any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions or comments for Kelly on this? No, very exciting. I'll open it up to public participation. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments? All right, I will close then public participation. Do I have a second? So we have a motion by Councilmember Bublock, second by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 4 with 1 not participating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Moving on to 8B, a request to affirm or modify the community events and activities grants funding is submitted by the Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission is set forth in Exhibit A and direct staff to initiate another funding cycle to award the remaining community events and activities grant funds of $5,750. Director Van Gilder.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is essentially the result of the task that you've charged your Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission with in terms of reviewing the current funding cycle applicants for community events and activities funding. attached with this item tonight is a list of the presentations in Exhibit A that were heard by the Commission. As directed by the ad hoc committee, we did review the guidelines and implemented some new processes. I think that we have a really solid process before you tonight. We had great interest in the program. We did end up with a bit of a surplus remaining in that program fund, and so with your decision tonight, we are asking council to consider reopening another funding cycle to see if we can make that funding available to a worthy group. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions or comments for Director Van Gilder at this time? Not? I will open it for public participation. Anyone like to comment at this time? I will now close public participation and bring it back to the council. What is the pleasure of the council?
I'll introduce the resolution and motion together. And again, thank Director Van Gilder and Eric Schultz, I don't see him in the audience, but for their work. I think that the work that we put into the ad hoc subcommittee, I think, has resulted in a very qualified group of applicants that are going to be funded, and actually with some surplus money, which is great, so we can try to fund additional activities in the city. Thank you.
Second.
And we have a second. So we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember DeHart for both the resolution and the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 4 with 1 not participating. Next, move to request to approve the purchase of 6 replacement marked black and white police vehicles for Turlock Police Department from Price Ford of Turlock, California, with all emergency equipment and aftermarket installation provided by LEHR Auto, Electric, and Emergency Equipment of Sacramento, California, from account number 506-00213.51020, equipment replacement, in an amount not to exceed $47,500 per vehicle or $285,000 total cost. Officer Reed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You pretty much laid it out.
I try to do that.
Kind of the whole package.
Absolutely.
The city of Turlock, on a regular basis, tries to rotate out vehicles as maintenance and mileage start accumulating. The department has identified 6 vehicles that need replacement at this time, and council, through the 15-16 budget year, has budgeted for these vehicles. So before you is a request to purchase 6 vehicles for approximately $47,500 per, which would be $31,401 per vehicle, with about $16,089 in aftermarket equipment. The reason we're asking for Price Ford is because we reached out to 2 piggybackable companies, one being Wondries, one being Downtown Ford in Sacramento, and Price Ford here in Turlock beat both prices by about $2,200 per vehicle. So before you is a request to purchase these vehicles and get them outfitted.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? If not anything, I'll open it for public participation. Any questions or comments from the public? All right, I'll bring it back to the council for consideration. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Next, we'll move on to a request to accept AB 109 realignment funds in the amount of $71,424.87 and appropriate said funds to the proper revenue realignment funds revenue and expenditure account minor equipment miscellaneous.
Mayor, Council, good evening, and as the Mayor stated before you, you have a request to accept the AB 109 realignment funds that were presented to the City of Turlock through our share based on population, and I'm open to any questions if you have any at this time.
Any questions or comments for Captain Amafar? Any questions or comments from the public for Captain Amafar? Bringing it back to the council for consideration. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to item E, request to approve the purchase of one Rosenbauer fire engine through the Houston-Galveston Area Council without compliance to the formal bid procedure in accordance with Section 2-0-08B5 of the Turlock Municipal Code in an amount not to exceed $600,000 and appropriate the necessary funding to complete the purchase. Fire Marshal, how's it going?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As Mayor mentioned, they purchased a Rosenbauer fire engine to replace the engine at Station 1, which is a 1999 Pierce. That engine will go into reserve if this one is purchased. Actually, our reserve engines have been getting a pretty good workout, so looking forward to purchasing this engine if you approve of it. And I also have Captain Harkson. Due to time, he'll lay out every nut and bolt on this engine for you if you'd like. But,
absolutely, that's the type of council. Yeah, let's go.
Captain Harkson, would you come up and give a little bit detail, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to share a little bit with you. Was tasked by Chief Lohman prior to his departure. We have a plan in the department that we basically replace our apparatus. When we purchase our fire engines, we have a 15-year frontline service. That basically means that they're frontline in that station for about 15 years. After that, we look to roll them over into a reserve status for about 5 years. So that kind of keeps us on a regular buying program. So like Mark said, the engine that we're looking to replace right now is a 1999. It's a Pierce. When we embarked upon this, as the leader of the committee, I tasked the group with looking and building an engine that basically kind of fits our current format. The last engine update that we've really done, even though we've bought engines in the meantime, we haven't done really anything to update our spec. The last time we really updated our spec was going back to like 1987. So with this, we took on three factors that we really wanted to come out and stand real strong on. One of those was the cost of ownership. We're encumbering a lot of costs of ownership with our current Pierce. So we were looking no longer to stay sole source with that. So as you might see, some of we've actually decided to go with a Rosenbauer platform, which Ken Hallenstein, which is basically the salesman that we've been dealing with, is back here tonight. But with that, we're able to source parts. We're able to keep where we think that we're going to be able to keep our rig on the road a lot more than we have with the other ones. I know some of the council has some concerns with the previous engine that we bought. And we think that we've covered those. The other thing was firefighter safety and basically just overall cost. So with that, at Mr. Wasden's direction, and with Fire Chief, we have $550,000 in the account. With that, the cost that we're looking to spend is about $597 and some change. It's listed here. But we're looking for a total of $600,000, so we're looking for a transfer from the Prop 172 money to cover the additional $50,000.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Yes, City Manager.
Just by way of recollection, the capital project did budget it was incrementally budgeted over several years so that you have that money there, and now the 172 cost can make up that difference if you're comfortable with that. So it's included in your budget anticipated the $557,000. You have the 172 available. So
correct. The $550,000 came about as budgeting based on the previous engines we bought, had purchased in the past, and tried to anticipate some roll-up costs with that. But with doing a complete formatting of the engine, and then we didn't really project right on the COLAs of that, so that's where we're the additional $50,000 on.
All right, thank you. Yes, Councilmember DeHart.
Captain Harkson, is there any trade-in value
on fire equipment? Is very, very minuscule, and by the time we get them, it's basically a horse that you put out to pasture and you keep it around for sentimental purposes. We've got the one that we're going to be retiring upon this is going to be actually a 1993 that we've actually redone. We've had to redo the whole bed on it just to stretch us out to get us through the last economic downturn to try to get us to where we can have that reserve engine. With the amount of technology that we're putting on these rigs, this isn't just like your regular vehicle. We have multiple systems on there. We have obviously the water system. We have a foam system. We have onboard computers that help us with other things, and we have charging systems. And there's multiple factors that kind of play into all this. So pretty much by the time we get done with them, that's why you see the one that's up along 99. It's been sitting in the sales yard forever. The last group we had, we actually donated them to fire department. I believe it was, it was Tecate, Mexico, or something like that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman Nascimento.
Comment, Mr. Harkson, thank you for all your work on this. I know you've spent countless hours looking at every inch of this new engine, and really grateful for helping us with our problem engine and sort of helping all of us understand some of the issues you guys have faced with that. And so I just wanted to commend you for your work on that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to give me a comment. I want to give a quick kudos to Captain Mallory, who's back here. Another guy that isn't here right now is Engineer Bicchetti. I mean, we have well over probably 1,500 to 2,000 hours invested into the research and design of this current engine right now. That we've been looking at other departments. We've not only here in the state of California but nationwide, and trying to come up with the best fit for the state for what we have here in the city of Turlock.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think a key factor also going with this engine, if correct me if I'm wrong, Captain Harkson, but not like our Pierce engines, if something breaks, we actually have to wait for the part to be shipped out here. So that engine is down weeks at times. This one here, most parts are normal parts at a part store, correct?
That's correct. With the Pierce brand, Pierce was very proprietary with their parts. Just to give you a very quick example, if we break a leaf spring costs us about $500. It has to come out of Appleton, Wisconsin, because they're proprietary. They've done enough to manipulate it in the manufacturing process to where we can't go to somewhere locally and source that part. So if we come upon, we don't stock those kind of parts, so once we need it, it becomes an emergency or a crisis situation for us, because we're now down at a frontline apparatus. To overnight something like that's now $1,200, so we're paying almost 3 times the value of the part to try to get it out here, to try to get an engine service. And then you throw something into here like the Labor Day weekend or something like that, it makes it a lot more difficult. So that's one of the big factors that we looked at, and that's why we're really happy to come to you and ask for the purchase of our Rosenbauer. They don't incorporate anything that's proprietary.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I looked at you go to the microphone. Any questions or comments from the public on this issue? All right, I'm going to bring it back to the council. Anything else, Fire Marshal?
I just want to thank our staff for doing a job well done on this piece of equipment.
Absolutely, thank you. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll introduce the motion and the resolution as set forth on the agenda. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nascimento and a second by Councilmember Dehart for both the motion and the resolution. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Motion and resolution carry 5-0. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item F, a request to approve modifications to the fire chief job description effective September 8th, 2015, and authorize the creation of a 5-member review panel for fire chief recruitment and appointing the mayor and city manager as co-chairs of the panel.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council. On August 8th, the council approved us to enter into a professional services agreement with an executive recruiter for the position of fire chief. We entered into that agreement with Ralph Anderson and Associates on August 12th. The executive recruiter came out on Friday, August 21st, and spent the day out in Turlock, and he met with he met with the union, he met with management, he met with other various members, and we also were fortunate enough we got to go see a couple of the stations, which was enjoyable. And after we met for the day, a couple of things that he recommended was that in order for us to attract the most qualified and experienced fire chief candidate, that we amend our job description to allow the qualifying experience to substitute for the required education on a year-to-year basis. So that's what's proposed in the job description change. It's the one sentence is added there, it's underlined. And then the other item is a motion to authorize the creation of a 5-member review panel for fire chief recruitment and appointing the mayor and city manager as co-chairs. The executive recruitment firm, they'll go through the process of everybody that applies. They're going to go through and do a preliminary interview. They'll forward all the best applicants to the city. And the idea is that that 5-member panel will interview them, and then refer the top candidates to the council for final interview. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Kelly Jacobs Hunter? Yes, Councilmember Nascimento.
Kelly, could you, or what's the rush? How do we get more qualified candidates by dropping the education requirement?
He felt that there are many fire chiefs out there with a lot of experience, and they just may not have that bachelor's degree that we have in our job description. And he thought in order for us to see, so we don't count those people out, give them an opportunity to apply. He said,
the application pool a little bit.
yeah, that was his idea. And basically, you know, they could have a lot of experience, come in, do some succession planning, and then leave our department, you know, after, 5-6 years. And that was just his idea. So that's obviously up for the council to decide.
And then the 5-member, we know who, we know that the mayor and the city manager will be co-chairs, but do we know what is that going to be community members that make that up, or?
That was spoke about, and so it would be up to the mayor and the city manager to appoint the other 3 members.
Any other questions or comments? We're going for the glasses and not the microphone. All right, sneaky. I will now open it up for public participation. Anyone from the public like to comment on this item? If not, I will bring it back to the council for consideration after I close public comment. Do you introduce both resolution and motion? And City Attorney, we can do that? All right, so we have an introduction. Yes, we have a motion by Councilmember Bublock and seconded by Councilmember Jacob for both the resolution and the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion, the resolution and the motion both passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to council items for future consideration. Looking to my left, looking to my right. Seeing none, we'll move on to council comments. Looking to my left, looking to my, all right, I've got a council comment then. With you on the dais, you'll see there's a letter to the chair of the Planning Commission, Sarai Fergosi. Whenever we have a joint planning or joint Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission meeting, I will be following up with the items that they bring forward to us of concern, talking about our path forward. I don't take full credit for this. I work diligently with staff to make sure that we have a feasible timeline to address their issues of concern, and so that we don't have those issues and concerns go to the wayside. So that is there and for the record being put in. And then also, I don't know if someone's going to talk about Warrior Wednesday to my right. Do you want to discuss that? Or?
Go with it. You got the band on.
All right, perfect. Well, I've got, yes, the Made in the CSU wristband on, but in 2 Wednesdays from now, please give me the date. What is the date? The 16th, September 16th, from roughly 5 to 8 p.m. Downtown will hopefully turn into red and gold. It will turn into red and gold. We are going to be inviting CSU students downtown to experience and explore our downtown. It's a welcome back for the semester. It's been kicked off now. And so we invite not just students but alumni. We invite Turlock residents to come down and experience some of these restaurants and some of these stores and our fantastic downtown. There will be some food and beverage and different specials going on throughout the downtown, and you can see which restaurants and different venues are participating by their red and gold balloons. And yes, so make sure you wear your CSU Stanislaus red t-shirt down there. Am I missing anything, Vice Mayor?
Yep, there's trafficking. We're going to bus them.
Right, so there will be a shuttle for students and actually anybody from the community that would like to park. It will be picking up at the arena. Is that where it's going to be? Final location. And it'll be shuttling students and community members here to the downtown. There'll be more in a press release here, I think today or tomorrow, so you'll read about in the papers. But we want to try and encourage all Turlock residents to come down and, like I said, join us as the council members in welcoming back our CSU students who we love having a part of our community. All right. With that, closed session items, anything, City Attorney? All right. We're looking to adjourn. Who wants the motion? I heard everybody. So we're going to motion by Councilmember Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Nascimento. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We are adjourned.